Peace, Hotep. ATM Hotep. So we got Miss Tiffany in the house. Hotep. Yeah, quick after show of Garfield's long live stream. Hopefully I could be heard. I'm not quite sure if I could be heard. Making sure of that. But peace, ETM Hotep, to everyone who's tuned in. Yeah, so I'm not gonna be. It's not gonna be a long thing. I just want to kind of just have a kind of wind down from Garfield's live stream. So this is like an after party / after show, because I see nobody else went live after him, and I got sucked into a long conversation that I had no intention of being there that long. And so, yeah, I got to kick myself for that. I got sucked into that. I'm going to blame Rob Bourne for that. Getting me sucked into that that whole conversation and everything. I initially went to Garfield's channel because I saw that he replayed portions of our live stream from last night when we went over the Hatshepsut's divine birth. And I was like, cool, let me chime in to see if anybody had some comments to make about it, because I didn't know what Garfield showed in its totality. I didn't know if he showed the whole video or a part of it or just using the video to make a point or what. So I came in and everything was good. But then we switched from talking about Hatshepsut and the divine birth, and then we ended up talking about African Americans, ADOS, and Cobra, FBA, Ethiopians, the Coptic Christian Church, and man, we went around the world, and I just got sucked into all of that stuff. So anyway, I saw that nobody did like an after show kind of wind down, because see, with me, whenever I go live on my channels that I deal with, I always want people to walk away with something. And so I just going live now just to see what the takeaways were from the conversations before, and see if anybody walk away with something, as a doggy bag, mental doggy bag or whatever. Because that sucked up a lot of time of my day. I had no intentions on doing that. Today is Sunday. I even had planned on doing some things, didn't even get it done. So I can't blame. I'm gonna blame Rob Bourne, but really I gotta blame myself for allowing myself to get sucked into all of that good stuff. But still interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, interesting conversation. If people just allow people to kind of talk and make points. But man, what I don't like is the nature of conversations when I don't know. I just don't, it's like adversary. So the point of things get lost in the middle. But anyway, here I am, just having a little after conversation. I'll put the link in the chat. So any of y'all who were watching earlier, you want to come on this panel, feel free, you're invited. I don't want to be long on here, so I'm just going. So what I'm going to quickly do, real quick, is just to kind of reiterate some points I was making. And I like to do that because on a multi-panel show, when you have a lot of people on the panel, it's really hard to make a real good, solid, coherent point, because you got to take turns in speaking, right? And this is what happens. And this is not a fault of any specific person. This is just the nature of these YouTube platforms, right? And panels. So if 10 people are on a panel and there's a subject being discussed, and one person on the panel asks another person on the panel a question, it usually ends up being, in that take turns system. You have to wait for 8 or 9 other people to say what they say before it comes back around to you. And sometimes that works for different conversations, but not many conversations that we have, and so I think that's a hindrance and whatnot. I'm not saying it's a fault of any one particular person, but it's just not good for things like that because I know for me, what I've experienced many times is if you sit there and have to wait, that's how come while I'm live and in real time, I always type. I always have my whiteboard up and I type. And I type what people say, the things that I'm going to address, and I show things and I type stuff out and whatnot. That's why I do that. If any of y'all are ever wondering why I do that, I'm able to show stuff. If people share their screen and make a point on something in their screen, I take a screenshot of what they're sharing and then pull it in so I can point out some things that they were saying, to be able to respond to it. That's how, that's how you're supposed to do it. That's how I was trained to do it. But, I see somebody came in. Let's see who came in here. Brother James, Pan-African Designs. Peace to you, brother.
Peace, y'all. I just came in. I didn't even watch any of Garfield's show. I don't even watch his channel. He kind of, they on something else over there. But anyway, I was
Okay.
doing research, on certain things that we've been dealing with here lately, and I came across something, and I wanted to get somebody with a more.
All right, so you about to take me. Okay, cool. Nah,
Yeah.
wait,
Hold
hold
on.
up. Let me.
This is something that just kind of I just gotta know, bro. So
All
okay,
right, all right.
now
So
I
I'm
was
gonna
doing.
table what I was saying, and I'm gonna focus on you. Your question. All right, so go. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, so you read the language such and such, right? Okay, so I was doing some research and I found that they said the first time that Nubia was mentioned was like 1,000 years after the civilization had began.
Yeah,
Maybe the fifth dynasty. So how
yeah.
is it that they were writing in 3400 BC, the oldest things that we can find, but they don't have any recollection of them anywhere around until 1,000 years later. How is that possible? That's what I want to know.
Okay, good. Well, they're talking about the word and the name, and that's what I've always been saying. At no time was there ever a kingdom or country called Nubia in order to call people Nubians. No matter how you shape up the word or whatever the case is, that's
So
that's
wouldn't
just
it?
that's just ahistorical. It's not historical.
So so isn't that solving the problem? So if they what I'm asking, so the
All right.
Nahisiu,
Yep. There you go.
it took 1,000 years for that word to come up.
No, the Nahisiu was a designation the Egyptians gave to the region beyond their southern border.
Okay, so what are they saying? It took 1,000 years for them to mention, and what do they mean by that? That's
Well,
what
that's
I'm trying to get clarification on. Why would it take them 1,000 years to mention somebody who was with the progenitors of the culture? And and you can see if you look at those oldest tablets, those tablets are pretty much full form Medew Netcher. They're not. It's like a developmental stage. The oldest tablets that they found, those
yeah.
are fully developed Medew Netcher. So we already know that something's missing as far as the development of that writing system. But what I
Okay, but
found that
here's
was
how it's done
interesting,
though. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, what I found
Go
was
ahead.
interesting is how do you get the Nehisiu 1,000 later after the fact? And we know that they were writing in 3,400 BCE with full comprehension of the writing system. So
Well,
how they that's just like Jesus, like how we do the Christians. How are they missing 1,000 years in the history if they were there all along, right?
he said 1,000 years after the history.
Yeah, like so that we would do that to some Christians. If we're like, well, why are they missing 1,000 years? See, so
Okay,
you get what I'm saying, or maybe I'm
yeah.
wrong. I'm gonna mute my mic and see what maybe you could if you get what I'm saying.
I think so. So here's the short and skinny of it, right? The okay, let's erase ancient Egypt and everything, right? Let's erase it because we're gonna go back in the time machine, go backwards in time, right? This is before ancient Egypt was ancient Egypt. So there is no ancient Egypt at this time, and we're smack dab in modern day up northern Sudan right now. And around us is a group of people that eventually over time start to form a polity and start, state formation. And as they do so, they travel downstream on the river, on the Nile River. And downstream means in a northern direction on our maps. So they start traveling down, and as they travel down, they're unifying the people in the area by whatever means they're doing it, whether it's by force or whatever. I'm not getting into exactly how it was done, but this unification process starts to take shape. And it wasn't until later that what they left behind in the northern Sudan area started to have its own independent state formation, where it was a force to be reckoned with, which was the Kushite Empire. And that happened around 2500 BC, that's where you're getting the difference between 3400 BC and then the 2500 BC. That's that 1,000 years that you're speaking of.
So you saying they're talking about Kush at that time?
Yeah, because Kush is considered in the area of Nehisiu. Okay, so remember,
right, I get that. So hold on, trust me, dog. I mean, trust me, dude.
Okay.
I understand this, but but they're just trying to say the Kushite Empire comes up 1,000 years later. But where so you saying they mentioned in the Nehisiu the whole time? And where do we first see that word at? Off in the text.
Okay, we can look that up. I don't know off the top of my head. For that answer.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to see.
But I can get that to you, for you, and to you. But what I'll say right now is, I'm gonna go back to what I was saying. So as these groups of people started to have the state forming process going downstream, starting from in between the first and second cataract area, roughly, it started traveling downstream along the Nile, right? And at that time, there was a region that was known to the people as Ta Seti, as evidence on the Costil Osiali seal and different material cultural artifacts that archaeologists have found. So Ta Seti then becomes the very first major division of what later becomes ancient Egypt. That's why it's the first nome of Upper Egypt. It's the most southernest spot in the Egyptian kingdom, and it's this first nome, Ta Seti. So now here's the thing. People are translating, or not even translating, they're translating Ta Seti as the land of the bow, but they're calling it Nubia. And so Ta Seti becomes Nubia, but then people are confused, because if that's the case, then Ta Seti is in Egypt. Therefore, Nubia would be in Egypt. But when you talk about Nubians, you're talking about people who are outside of Egypt, further south. And that's where. And that's where.
You understand how this sounds? I mean, if people was listening,
I know people are
totally
listening.
Confused. I'm just saying that that just totally, man.
And
some kind of way y'all gonna have to straighten this out to where it could be like simple for people to understand, because. See, when we say Kush, I understand the Kush comes up 1,000 years. What the Kush develops over time, and then 1,000 years later, they're a force to be reckoned with on the southern region, right? But at the whole time, they've already been in Nehisiu from the beginning. And what are we saying? That the only thing that we have to identify the territory is the name Ta Seti as the region that they're in, but they're not necessarily the Nehisiu at this time, or is Egypt has his name? Well, does Kemet have his name at the time, or what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like at the developmental stages of it, do they have their names, or okay. how does, you know what I'm saying? How do they differentiate? Because I think the Europeans are placed, even though we have the Ramesh and the Nehisiu as what the people say, some kind of way, how does it get convoluted to where we're confused as to what happened right there? You know what I'm saying?
Tell you, listen, you're asking to see. That's what I'm doing that in some of these videos, but I'm gonna dedicate like a video strictly to that, right? So I plan on doing that in one video, but I have done it in multiple videos. But here's the thing, because what you're asking That's what it's going to take. It's going to take a like a nice outline of everything. But the short answer though is it is real simple. If people just kind of erase what they think they know and stop with the whole black thing, then it's really simple. You got a group of people who come up with elements, behavior, all these cultural items, and it starts to like a snowball effect, build up, and as it builds up, it's moving in a northern direction, which is downstream, and people are tacking on. We call it a unification process, and where it begins, it goes in a northern direction and not in a southern direction. So the southern direction is left pretty much alone, and the people that's there start their state formation process, and they become contemporaries to ancient Egypt. And when ancient Egypt is forced to deal with them, they become a distinct separation from the Egyptians. So the Egyptians are people who refer to the Kerma archaeological word and name and stuff as Kush. So Kerma is Kush, and so this is where the Egyptians start to identify them, and they name that entire region Ta-Nehisi, and it separates Ta-Nehisi between Ta-Seti, which is the most southern region in ancient Egypt. But they know that the origins of the culture and everything like that came from that same region. It's just that it
Yeah, but
moved
see, and one thing we
it
got,
moved north.
I think we got to be careful of that too, Awujao. Like, because see, when you said that, like, it kind of sounded like you was trying to diminish the southern region. We don't know what the hell was going on in the south. Because if the epicenter is in one place, why wouldn't it disperse in all directions? Why would it only
No,
go north? You would have
okay,
to
that's
give me a
easy. That
reason. You'd have to
okay.
give me a
The
reasoning
reason is easy.
why people down south is not going to catch the same information, the same writing system, the same cultures. Why
Okay,
wouldn't they
it's
get?
very
That'd be just
it's
like if I'm staying in Dallas, we're not gonna we're not gonna all get, it's not gonna, whatever information comes out of that city is not gonna disperse in all directions. It's just gonna go one way. That
okay.
doesn't
That's very
logically make sense, right?
no. It actually does. If people understand how rivers work and how river
Yeah, I
cultures
understand
work.
the river part
Wait,
of it.
wait,
But
but
okay,
let
well,
me.
watch this. Okay,
All
well,
right.
why doesn't it start further south then? See, if you, why does this start in the middle of the river? You see what I'm saying?
Well, wait a
You
minute.
can't do it that way.
No. Here's the thing. I showed this on the map before. The Nile River is not a straight arrow. Like the Nile is not a straight river. It curves,
Yeah, I
and so
seen
and
that. I
so and
seen when
so
you, it was like a bottleneck, and you were
and
saying that
so
that was that.
right, and
Mm.
so there's an area of the Nile River in its totality where it folds back on itself, and if you were to take square mileage area and look at the volume of water in that area, that was a larger portion of water availability. When the Nile curves back on itself, then it loops back and then it goes north. So the Nile is going north, then it loops back and goes south, then it loops back and goes north again. That zigzag motion produced an area that has more volume of water. So more people can live around there and not be all up on each other's shoulders because they have more access to water in multiple places. So it makes perfect logical sense why that will be a hub in that region. So it's not hard to understand. And then the river flows downstream, and the fertileness of that river is always deposited further and further downstream. So they track and go downstream to follow the ability to be sedentary, which is more and more fertile area. The further north you travel on our maps, or further downstream you go, the more fertile area and fertile soil you have access to. So it makes perfect logical sense, and this is just basic stuff that happens all around the world. If you look at any river culture, the bulk of the things that take place in a river culture is usually downstream.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm gonna leave off the show. I was just trying to find out what that was. But see, I could also argue that you would, if that's the case, the civilization starts even further south. Because, like I said, when you get the oldest writings that they have as evidence, it's already fully developed. Those tablets. So we don't know how old this language is and how further south this civilization go. Of course, and then you can't find out because they flooded 400 miles of the southern land. So we don't know where this stuff starts from. If you just really just you got somebody else giving you your history is what I'm saying. So it's always going to be questions, um,
Well, I mean,
in my
it
opinion, because it just something
it's
ain't right.
well, it's but here's the thing. What we can only go with what we do know and what we have. If we allow the evidence as we have it to paint the picture and bring us to conclusions, the evidence tells us that the Egyptian culture that we come to know and love as ancient Egypt started in the southern region, the northern region of Sudan and the southern region of Egypt. That whole area that scholars like to call Nubia, and that's the bottom line. That's what we do know. That's what we do know. Um, and there's nothing really surprising about any of that at all. But to your original thing point or question was the Egyptians started to coalesce or form this we-ness, this identity that became the Remage, and then they started to separate themselves from everyone else, including people further south from them. So that's the distinctions were made between the rest of the Nehisiu and the Egyptians in name and in culture. The Nehisiu, the various different people in the Nehisiu area, um, were not practicing ancient Egyptian cultures and loyal to ancient Egyptian, kingdom and kingship and stuff like that. So, so there was a distinction made, and they spoke a different language.
Yeah, I think basically from the artwork they phenotypically look different too.
Well, the artwork, people can't. I mean, people can look at that as
Okay,
just
like okay, like for instance, when
a
you were
plus
doing the difference
thing.
between the Ramesh and the Nehisiu with the pictograph, and
Yeah,
then you were saying
yeah.
in one tomb there was a mistake made, but in all the other ones they
Nah,
had
somebody,
made it.
everybody. Nah, that was Aku saying it was a mistake. I say it's not a mistake.
Yeah, well,
It's
okay,
an
let's just say
anomaly.
that let's just say if he was right, but the other ones all matched up, maybe three more tombs, but they still looked at like I would call them what you would say like an Ethiopian looking type of African. And then when you look at the difference between the Ethiopian and the Sudanese, it's just a little bit darker complected at that time.
Yeah,
That's
if
what my
you
hypothesis is that the Ethiopians had that territory north of the northern part of it at one point,
if
and then they
if
get
you
pushed down through time.
so
That's what makes sense to me based on what
here
the pictures and everything that they drew.
mhm,
Most of the
yeah.
time, they drew themselves as African. And see, even your argument made it seem as though you were arguing that they akin themselves to the Nehisiu more rather than the Libyan or the people that are in the what's in the Levant. In that argument that you were making then, but then y'all
Well,
double back. See, that's why it kind of seemed like y'all kind of be talking in two different ways because you would say they wasn't black, but then you'll make an argument that they akin themselves to the blacks up in the artwork in that tune. So
no, I
that
say
kind of
I say
confuses
none
me,
of them are
y'all.
black. No, no, no. Listen, nah, it's confusing when we channel hop and listen to different people and stuff like that. That's when it becomes confusing. But I've been very consistent. I say none of them are black. I say get rid of the whole racial component of these conversations altogether. I've been saying that for years, and I still say it to this very day. I
Okay, okay, right. Okay, okay. This what I
I
want
say
to.
none of them are
This is
black
what I'm
or
trying to
white.
do for the
You
simplification.
see what I'm
When you
saying?
were when you were doing the tomb reading for the we're trying to identify the remesh with the writing and the
Uh huh.
Hisiu with the text, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You were
Right.
showing that, in my opinion, or what from what I thought, you were showing that they were showing that they were showing themselves as most akin to that stock as opposed to the other stocks that was the choices on the map. That's how you could tell who they were based on phenotypically what they drew themselves to look like. That's
Nah,
what
we
I
could
got
tell.
from it.
Okay,
That's
well, just
just basically what that's what I got. Basically, you were saying that they akin themselves more closely to the Nahisiu than they do to whatever you call the other two options that they had,
well,
right?
no. What tells us?
Without even saying anything about color, just looking at what the artwork and what the name that they put by them said.
Well, what we do is we never divorce the text from the imagery, the vignettes that are around the text, and we know which ones were the Egyptians because they say so. It's the word there, not because of the image, but it's because of the label. The Egyptians labeled themselves the Remich right there, and in the tomb of Ramses III, they have the label Remich right there. Those figures happen to be identical to the label on the other adjacent wall of the Nehisiu, only in that tomb. So that's what I was pointing out, right there. But here's the thing. So imagine if you were an excellent artist, and you could draw out the wazoo, like you were a professional drawer. You could draw anything that you look at, you could draw or whatever, and you were like master. And somebody asked you and commissioned you and paid you to come up with one single image of a male, of a man that represents African Americans. Do you know how challenging that would be for you? You can only draw one man and one woman that's supposed to represent all African American men and all African American women. You had to draw one woman and one man. That would be a huge challenge. So what? So
No,
how?
not necessarily, because we already know that historically are going to be on the darkest spectrum of all of the American types here. So I would be able to identify if I was looking in the scope of the pigmentations of all of the people in America. I would draw myself as the darkest, or the representation of that particular people as the
You
darkest
only have one.
on the
Listen,
on the
you
on
can
the
only draw
plaque.
one. You can only draw one. You can
Yeah,
only
but
draw
I'm going
one
to
that
make sure.
represents
But I'm going to make
all
sure
African Americans.
out of the mathematically, I'm going to make sure, based on what the spectrum of what we have. If I had to represent an African American right now today, it's going to have a darker hue. Now, maybe 50 years from now, we can come back and argue this point because of the admixture that's going on. But you got to remember, Wujao, that we come directly out of intermarriages and stuff like that. So a lot of us still retain our Africanness in our DNA. But over time, that may be the case. You see what I'm saying?
Wait,
But
now,
right
no,
now,
I want you to notice something.
definitely.
I want you to notice something. I painted a picture for you. I gave you a scenario. I said you are a master artist, and you were just paid and commissioned to draw one man and one woman that's supposed to represent all of African Americans. And I want to notice that in what you just said, you went straight to color and you went straight to genetics. Do you see how that happens? And that is the problem with these conversations, because
How is that a problem? Why is that a dirty thing to do? I don't understand.
no. I'm not. No, it's not. It's not. I'm not saying dirty as an evil. I'm saying it's problematic for the solution, because you invoke color and genetics when I simply just said, if you were the master artist and draw a one man and one woman that represents all of African Americans, and your first thing out your mouth was choosing a skin color, you said the darkest. You said you're gonna go to dark.
I didn't say that it's just I would make sure that they would know that we were darkest on the spectrum in America. Are we not? If you would do a pigmentation of all the people in America today, who would have the darkest pigmentation today?
No, but I'm saying, but you only have a
answer the
chance
question, Wujao. Who would have the darkest pigmentation today? Would it be us?
In America? Yeah, out of all Americans, yeah, African Americans would be the darkest.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. I would just draw the us in the darkest pigmentation. Not saying I would draw a Sudan black, but I'm just saying if I had to draw every person in America today, it would be a color spectrum.
I know, but okay, well, in my scenario, I don't want to imply that you're drawing a picture to represent everybody. I said one picture of a man and one woman of African Americans. I'm not saying you drawing anybody else or nothing. I'm saying
I was just saying
you had to draw.
If you were just gonna, if we had to go down the line, we would still be the darkest on this particular.
No line, no nothing, because only African Americans. You're not drawing nobody else. You are hired and paid to draw one male African American, and one female African American. And I'm putting this out there because I wanted your mind to think of the process that you would take, because what I was getting at is that if somebody were to pay you $1 million to do that project, you would have to sit there and start to think of things that will represent a male African American, and then you would have to choose. You have to choose features or some kind of elements that is indicative of a male African American, so much so that it could represent all African American males. And that would be a challenge. You would have to sit there and really kind of think all that stuff through, because you only got one shot at representing a all male African Americans and all female African Americans. So that means you can only do what you do, and that is going to be the representation of African Americans, that one male and that one female that you draw. And I'm saying, in Egypt, what the scribes did, they did just a thing. They created a caricature or a stylized, canonized style that represents the image, males and females. And they did that for their neighbors. But so what they did, they chose highlighted items in their day and time that would signify things that represent that group of people. You know what I'm saying? So the way and it was all cultural items, the way they dress, the weaponry, something that stood out in their mannerisms, the fact that certain people are known for their sharp, pointy beards and facial hair, or whatever the case is, and certain things. So they had to choose all that stuff to represent that. And that's what it was. And if we think about all that along those lines, all this stuff is simple. It's all this stuff is simple. It made a distinction. So let me ask you this. How would you separate? Would you make a distinction between an African American male and you drawing that between a person who came here from Jamaica but now is in America? Would you visually make a distinction between the two males that you draw, or would you have them the same?
Well, if you were talking about a Jamaican African from the continent, or a diasporan, they're
Yeah.
pretty much
Yep.
the same as us. So the only thing that differentiates us is the flags that we represent at this time. So that would be the only way I could differentiate us, is the flag, like they do with the Thai SETI standard and the set standard. That's
Okay.
how
So
they
now check it out.
differentiate. So that's
Okay.
the only way that, just like a Crip in the blood, even though we all Americans, we differentiate ourselves through those colors, because we're the same people.
Okay. So
Not that.
check it
Oh,
out. Yeah, so check it out. So now, if based on what you're saying is that you would draw the African American male the same as the Jamaican male, and the distinction obviously will be the flags, of course, because of the country. But now, if people in the future relied on your drawing, they will be none the wiser that both male figures that you drew are distinct. They're gonna think that they're the same.
okay, watch this. That's the same thing that our ancestor did in that tomb that you did. The only way that you could tell that they were different is what they had on them, maybe a little bit different, and the names that they put in between it. Other than that, you couldn't tell if they who was who.
So now you're starting to see my point of why scholars even call
No,
that
no, no,
tomb.
no, 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 no.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that was just that two groups. You had two other groups in there that was totally different, that we could differentiate based on just lookership. We knew that those weren't the same two people, right?
Yes, exactly. And
Okay.
so so the point I'm getting at is that in no matter which tomb that you walk into that has the Book of Gates, that scene, all four groups were created to note down the distinction between the four groups, so that people will know, okay, these are distinct groups. Only in the tomb of Ramses III do they avoid or step away from that, and they
Yeah,
have the
watch this.
remage,
Watch this.
and
If
then the
you can't
ECU as
read
the
the
same.
language like most of us can't,
Hmm.
you see how that mistake was made? Because they look
It wasn't a
exactly like
mistake
the
though.
Nehisi. They looked at exactly like them, but we couldn't read the language. That's how the mistake was made from lookership, because they akin themselves to the people from the South. They didn't akin themselves to the Libyans.
No, but I can show you Libyans that look just like Egyptians, though.
I'm talking about
It's just not
on
in
the
that tomb.
rendition that they drew, the stylized rendition that you've been presenting last week, what they presented. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about what we're gonna see today.
No. No, I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about. I can show you ancient depiction of Libyans who look just like Egyptians.
Yeah, well, okay, I don't know. I may be getting on people's nerves or something. So let me go ahead and get off here, bro, and
Well,
let
what
you
you mean? Keep
continue
on
on
people's
with the
nerves.
show. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
stop reading
But
the
I
chat.
have questions. These are just questions that
Yeah,
most lay
you
people
must
want to
be
know.
watching. You must be watching the chat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying most normal people, they have these questions because if we
No,
listening to
I
y'all,
appreciate your
I'm
question.
trying to simplify this so we can gain an understanding of what's going on, because I've been studying this stuff for over a decade. I'm not just no lay person. I just talk
Yeah.
like normal people talk. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
But I
hey.
definitely got time invested in this whole particular gaining an understanding of my history. So that's why it's
So
valuable to me. So when I get a chance to talk to somebody that can read the language, I value it, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your input. That's all it was. But
no,
I
no.
don't want
Listen,
to ruin your
I
show,
appreciate you.
Mujahid, so I'm gonna
Nah,
go
what?
ahead and get
No, no,
out.
no. Okay, but I don't want you to think you're ruining the show or whatever, because I appreciate your question, because your question is sobering to remind me of making it simple as I possibly can, because that's your goal. You asking me these questions to make it simple, and I can only do but so much. So sometimes if you don't get it, I gotta be like, all right, well, hey, it is what it is. But at least you remind me of trying to make it simple as I can, though. So I'm just gonna
Okay.
say I appreciate it, appreciate that. So
All right,
yeah,
all right. Peace, bro.
okay,
I'll be watching the show.
all right, peace,
Peace.
all right. Um, Now, what I originally went live for, but I don't want people watching now for me to and like I just told the brother James, yeah, I don't want to think him to think that he ruined the show or anything, even though his question was completely off of why I went live, But hey, that happens. I put the link out there. He came in and asked his question, so hey, I can't blame the brother for that at all. So it's not a problem to me. That's why, I'm trying to deal with it. Okay. But back to why I came live on the show, though, is as an after conversation for Garfield show earlier that I got sucked into. Garfield had like a 8-hour live stream. I wasn't there for the whole 8 hours. It
9
felt like I was. You said what?
9 hours.
Okay, 9 hours. I was definitely there for a good 6 of those 9, maybe. Man, but I had no intention on being on there long. But so I'm live right now. So let me get back to why I'm live. I'm live right now to kind of just have some closure to the conversation earlier, because Garfield shut it down, and then when you have a panel of people that everybody wants to talk, you got to allow everybody to talk. And sometimes that's not a good thing, though, because somebody will put something on the floor, and they address something, and you want to address it, but then you got to wait for 8 other people to talk about something, and then those 8 people can potentially take the conversation somewhere else. And that happens a lot. And I'm like, man, so because that happens, and in my training, I take notes. Like, I actually sit when I'm live, I have a pad and pen, or I have my text edit or something up where I can type notes. A whiteboard. I have a whiteboard. I use a whiteboard for everything, and I take notes of what people say so I can patiently come back to it and wait. Even Rob Bowen said earlier, he said, "Man, well, Jawa don't let anything go, boy. He'll bring up something that was mentioned, like an hour ago." And he's right. I will do that. I'll do that in a heartbeat, because that's what you're supposed to do. But anyway, so I just want to reiterate my points from earlier, right? And then you all who are watching, hanging out for a while, you all may not have saw Garfield's show, so that's cool. but I just want to make it clear of the points that I was making. I want to reiterate those. And I know Mika was there, and Sister Tiffany, and peace to Miss Tiff, Mika, Emmy Cat on the panel. So it's just us four on the panel right now. All right. But let me just say these things. All right. So the first thing was the Hatshepsut birth, or divine birth. That was my original point of even going on Garfield's show, because I saw that he shared that, and I didn't know to what extent. So I just made myself available for any questions he may have or anybody had. But man, that was like the first 10 minutes of me being on there, or 15 minutes, and that was it. Then we switched over to Africans, Africans versus African American. Then ADOS, FBA came up, reparations came up, HR 40 came up, and Cobra came up, Yvette Carnell, Antonio came up. Then we went from there, and we ended up all the way in Alexandria, Egypt, with the Coptic Church and the Axum Empire with Ethiopia and Haile Selassie and, and all that stuff. We went all the way around the world, boy, in that conversation. And so I just want to reiterate my point, 3 points, I guess, from earlier, in case I was misunderstood. And that is on the subject. And I know, you all may not, if y'all didn't see the show, you probably was like, huh, what, or whatever the case is. But this is important because it kind of ties into this whole black conversation, even with ancient Egypt and things like that. So here's the thing. For reparations to happen in the United States of America, there has to be some formal trigger for that, a formal complaint to be made. And so reparations is, and I have a whole show on my channel, Wujao channel, not the Sesh channel here that y'all watching now, but if you go to Wujao, my other YouTube channel that I only got like 10 videos on, you'll see all the stuff dealing with reparations and ADOS and all that on there. So I've been through this before, but here's the short and skinny gist of it. The fight for reparations is a fight for restorative or reparative, what they call reparative justice and restorative justice for a specific group of people. And a specific group of people are people who are now descendants of victims of the institution of slavery and all of its byproducts. So that would include slavery itself, Jim Crow, redlining, convict leasing, all of those things, sharecropping, all of those vices or things that are associated with the institution of slavery. The reparations claim is for that scope of people, that specific group of people. And in trying to line all that stuff up, there's a distinction that needs to be made, because now here in modern times in America, we have people in this country that do not fit that description, that precise description, but yet on a higher level will fit under the umbrella of being black or other labels. And so distinctions have to be made. And my argument earlier was that when these distinctions are articulated in the public, most people in the public are not understanding the legal and legislative process of restorative justice. They're going to get emotional about it and see it as divisive, and or separating and everything like that. And people jumped on that bandwagon and added fuel to the fire, poured gasoline on it. And you had organizations like Cobra, ADOS movement, FBA, and all these other people arguing with each other on YouTube, on Clubhouse audio stuff and everything, podcasts everywhere. People were arguing on Twitter. They had Twitter battles and everything, a bunch of noise. And so what I was saying to Rob Bowen earlier was just that it's because of the ignorance of the process and the need to make these distinctions that people are in their feelings and having all these kinds of arguments, even down to the organizational level. They got real petty. And Cobra is you know, ad hominem attacking ADOS. ADOS is ad hominem attacking in Cobra members and this and that. It got real silly and whatnot. So that was the point that I was making earlier. And in doing so, Rob Bourne brought up HR 40, the bill, and I was pointing out in the bill that what sparked the argument with us earlier was I made a statement and said that claiming to be African for the purposes of reparations has no meaning, has no merit. So if I walk into a reparations scenario and conversation and that whole process and I claim to be African, it's not going to have any meaning at all. What has a meaning in that scenario and in that scope of things is if I claim to be African American and a descendant of a victim of the institution of slavery and all of its byproducts from the years 1619 to 1856. That's when I have standing. If I don't make that claim, if I don't identify myself as that, I don't have a standing in the reparations fight. And that's what I was saying. But Rob Bourne took that as me saying that we're not African, meaning that we don't have roots, we're not rooted in Africa, or that we are not of African descent. And so that's how the conversation kind of went back and forth, and people, we were all talking on top of each other and missing each other's points or whatever the case may be. But that was the point. And it's a very simple point that people need to understand. And so out of that conversation, people really, really need to slow things down and understand when the context and when and where and how to use these different things and even terminologies. And so I would say that under invoking ancestry, recent ancestry, African Americans are Africans. If we're gonna rely upon invoking recent African ancestry, that would be true. And that's what I said earlier. So me, myself, under that definition of an African, I'm an African. But for the purpose of restorative justice, I'm not African. My immediate ancestors were African, but I'm not. I wasn't born anywhere on the continent of Africa. I'm not a member of any African nation or anything. I'm a citizen of the United States of America, and being domiciled here in America and as a citizen of America, I am an African American in terms of an ethnic level identity. And that is what is within the scope of reparative or restorative justice or reparations, as people are saying. That's it. It's just that simple. It don't need to get any more complicated than that. That's why, for the purpose of reparations, nobody from Africa can fly over here and then claim to be within the scope. That's why nobody from Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, or wherever else can fly over here to America and then all of a sudden include themselves in the reparations fight. You can't do it because it doesn't apply to that or them. And people see that as being divisive or separate, like, oh, trying to break up black people. No, it's in our unity where we're going to win. Why can't we do a whole diaspora thing where everybody on the continent and stuff like that attack the British, the British and the French and the Portuguese who had ships and this and that? People get into that conversation, and anybody who does, that means they don't understand the process. Is a very detailed process that's very simple if you just follow the method of restorative justice and how it needs to be carried out. It's a legislative issue put forth before Congress right now in the form of a bill, a proposal of a bill. It's not passed yet, but it's a bill that's on the table to form a commission of people. And a commission simply means a body of people who are going to come together for the purpose of studying, researching the effects of the institution of slavery and all of its byproducts between the years 1619 and 1865, and what effects it had on a specific group of people here in America. And then they have to sort out a solution to make those people whole. That's the simplest way I could put it, that what that commission is set forth to do and what the bill is asking. The bill itself is not reparations. The bill itself is not saying people are going to get a check or none of that stuff, which was crazy to me when people saying, cut the check, forget HR 14, just cut the check, just cut the check. How you going to cut a check if you don't even know the amount? The government is not going to write a blank check. Like, people are in la la land with that. That's why I left it alone. I argued these things 3 years ago. I argued it for a year, starting 3 years ago. So you look at my videos on my channel, you'll see the date. It says 3 years ago all the way up until 2 years ago. Because I went hard with it for a whole year, but 3 years ago. And I try to be a voice of reasoning. So that was that conversation and everything. And Rob Bourne was, I don't know if he understood that. So even right now, I don't even know if he understood that point that I was making. I think so. I would think so. But anyway, so on that point, Mika and Tiffany, I know you all were there. I don't know if you all got that. So what say you on those points? Is that what y'all heard me? Did y'all get that interpretation from what I was saying earlier?
It was a lot of cutting off. So, when you was trying to give your information, we didn't get, all of it. So I think we have to do better on that.
I was clear of the point you were making. I felt like people were missing the context, like, on purpose, and that was a bit annoying because when we were
said on purpose.
when we were in elementary school, we learned when you have like the reading test, they would test you on understanding context. So if there was a sentence in the middle of a whole paragraph or several paragraphs, the idea was that you would understand what that when it came to answering the questions after the paragraph or paragraphs, the understanding is that you would read what came before and after to understand the context of this particular aspect of it. So when that whole point of going on and on about whether or not you said the document mentioned African or not, I thought that was it was such a moot point. And it was just because people didn't want to pay attention to the context.
Yeah, and then it was also the nature of always trying to have a gotcha thing with people on in these conversations, because clearly, if anybody listened to what I was saying, if I wasn't cut off, then that would have never happened, because I know that I used to have the HR 40 bill almost memorized. That's how much I dealt with it 3 years ago, and I know the word Africa or African is in the document. So I never meant that the word African is not in the document. My whole point was it's not for Africans. And that was the whole point I was making to Rob Bourne, that being African is does not have any legal standing. And I did say that part. I said being African has no legal standing in regards to reparations, because the Africans that were actually kidnapped and brought to the stateside from 1619 are not alive today. So the definition of African American for the purpose of reparations includes that, because that's the date that they start. That's the range starting that. They're talking about the descendants of that. And so the descendants, we refer to ourselves as African Americans, because in order to, and this is what I said earlier too, let's say the commission, let's say the bill is passed, the commission is formed, they do the research. So let's say 5 years later, after all the evidence that they accumulated and studying, they come up with a proposal. They come up with a proposal to make African Americans whole again, and to repair, that's reparative justice, and to restore African Americans, to make them whole. We propose that the government formulate these special programs, and in terms of liquid cash, every African American or every party to this thing should receive whatever. Let's just say $1 million a piece. I'm just saying, throwing that out there, whatever it is. Now, here's the thing. How is that going to be done? Who is that going to be given to? Who would be who? How would the government, or how would anybody be able to figure out who is entitled to that? And that's part of the commission. That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to identify how to go about doing that. And so they have to separate, in today's world, the people who are here in America, who would on the racial conversation would be considered black, but they would not be a descendant of the institution of slavery from here in America. And so that's a huge thing to do. And people have to understand that. So it wouldn't be given to Africans, because in order to get that benefit, you would have to be an American citizen. Your nationality would have to be American, and your ethnic group specific would have to be African American. Period. And so African, claiming to be African, has no standing, no legal standing. Now, in the sense of descent, yeah, we're African. All African Americans are African based on recent descent. That's it. I mean, I don't see how it could get any more simpler than that. So I'm an African by African descent, but I'm not an African anything outside of that. Outside of that, I'm not African. My nationality is American. My allegiance is to the United States of America. That's what a nationality is. My citizenship is here. There's no such thing as an African citizenship. There's no such thing as a country called Africa. Even when people Garfield brought up the African Union, and he went too fast on that, but I went back to it. When you look at the African Union that people like to invoke, the African Union has no individual membership. The membership of the African Union is countries. Countries are listed as members, not individuals. So if you, as an individual, you have to be a national of a country which is a member of the African Union. And so that reinforces my point that the area of real action and activity always start at the national level, at the level of your nationality. It does not start at the level of continents. There is no remedy for claiming continents. There's no legal remedy anywhere when people claim continents. It is always the way the world works and operates. The actual activities of the world always starts at the country level or the nation level. And in international terms, they call it state. They call it states. You know, countries in the international vernacular is states. So us here in America, we get a little confused with that because our country is called United States of America, and then we have states, 50 states. But in the international language and documents, a country is equal to a state. So Kenya is a state. The president of Kenya would be the head of state. President Biden is the head of state of the United States of America. So in the UN, they have diplomatic attaches and stuff like that, and people representing the head of state of these countries. That's where the action happens, not on a continental level. So claiming to be African does nothing when it comes to remedies, recourses, policies, and things like that. And that's my point, and I've always been my point. And can't nobody refute that. Somebody's going to show me where identifying as an African has any actionable movement in the world in terms of interactions and relationships between governments and treaties and policies and all kinds of things. It doesn't happen. And this is what we were taught in grade school that people seem to forget. You know, and we talk about Africa as if it's a country. And we're the only ones that do that. And see, African Americans, we are really the blame for making Africa into what it is. Like bringing Africa to a level of country. Because I'm gonna tell you, if you listen to how people talk about Africa when they mention the word Africa, even though they don't say out their mouth Africa is a country, but people talk about Africa as if it's a country. I swear to goodness, just do it on your own time. Just listen to any conversation that you have or you hear anybody talking about Africa. Watch how they talk about it is as if it's a country, and it's not. It's a daggone continent that has 54 countries on it. So I see Rob Bowen. I think Rob Bowen is in the chat right now. Yeah, so anyway. Oh, go ahead. MK, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say quickly, just from listening to that conversation, there are some things that actually that were good for me to kind of understand, where everything is. But just listening from the chat, is like I understood that, one thing that was very clear is that a lot of people do not understand the layers of identity. So like asking Rabon, are you African? Obviously, he would say you're African, and you did agree. Once that is cleared out, you understand on what layer is he invoking the Africanness, and that's on the recent ancestry level. Now, understanding that is clear, but people tend to miss all the different layers of identification, like nationality and all of that stuff. So when you say that you are not, you haven't had the pressure, being under the pressures of any African country and all of that stuff, that should actually be very clear to understand if you actually know what identity is, because obviously one way that you're African is from either residing on the continent of Africa, being born on the continent of Africa. So you can be Nigerian, and you're Nigerian on a national level, and then you're African on the continental level. And the fact that people would still have a problem understanding that that's kind of surprising to me. And obviously those people will not identify themselves in that sense, and they're getting mad when you say that on that level they're not African, and somebody not seeing that while knowing very well that if they whip up their passport right at that point. Hold on one second. Okay, so I was saying that if that person whips up their passport and they know that their passport says American or a citizen of the United States of America, then you're being delusional on that level, not even willing to say that I am African. Yes, when we're talking about this identity, this layer, I am American by nationality, even not wanting to say that means that you're not actually being honest, with yourself. So that was one problem that I saw, that people had, understanding all the different layers and just understanding that those layers exist. The other thing that I saw was that that even I learned a little bit from was when you talked about the HR 40 bill, and the fact that that is a bill that proposes for the research and the study of all the concerns that everybody actually have, and other people might not know of. And people actually, because every time this conversation comes in, people say, what about this? How will they keep track of who is this and that, and all of that. But understanding that actually that is actually what the bill is for all the concerns that you hear on the noise actually baffled me, that people will not understand that is actually necessary, and that's actually different from all the noises that concerns the ADOS as you know it, because there is the bill and then there is the ADOS. I think if I'm explaining it right, the bill is actually for the research, and always understanding everything that will come into it is always a good idea. So I would not understand why somebody would have a problem with that. But that's one of the takes that I took from it. But on the identity level, people just need to be clear. You're African, yes. And when you say that, everybody understands what you mean when you say you're African. You have recent African ancestry, you know. But then also people need to understand when you're talking on the national level, like you say, where the activities start, you have to ask yourself, what state or what state do I have immunity, and do I get my immunities and my privileges from? Obviously somebody like Rabon doesn't get state immunity and privileges from Nigeria or from Ghana, or any of the 55 countries that are on a continent. So on that sense, he would say, I'm American. So that's okay also to say, that's not a problem to say. People should not have a problem to say. And if you have any doubt, just think of yourself on a holiday. If you go on a holiday and something happens to you, what ambassador, what is the ambassador building that you're going to go to? Are you going to go to the Nigerian ambassador offices? Are you going to go to the Ghanaian ambassador offices? Are you going to find the American ambassador offices? So these are just things that people should not shy away from talking about.
Okay, well said, well said. And this is very, very basic. It's very, 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 very basic. If people were to get out of their feelings and out of the emotional aspect, and I do understand why it's there, but it's a problem. The consequence of what I witnessed over the 3 years when I jumped in the conversation, what I witnessed was very problem. That's why I left it alone. I left it alone because it got too buck wild. It was like the wild, wild west. You had ADOS members attacking Cobra members, and Cobra members attacking ADOS members, even physically. Like there's videos of people getting into pushing matches and fist fights and stuff like that. All the while, a very important undertaking is being fought for, which is reparations. That's a serious thing. And I think people are messing it up. So I left it alone. But it's very, very simple if people just learn and don't argue out of ignorance and just learn the process and what it takes and everything like that, and get out their feelings that by saying that you're African American or even American and embracing that, whether you embrace it or not, you are that, especially if you got a driver's license and live here and everything like that. You are that, whether you like it or not, is a totally different thing. You know what I'm saying? Because there's people who that's how the whole what do you call it, neutral gender stuff. People are males, don't, whether they like it or not, but then they don't feel like it. Then they want to go get changed. I guess that's why people get up in arms about it. But people are Americans on a national level. The nationality is the United States of America, and then they African Americans. But they feel that, okay, by doing that, we somehow are cheating on or forsaking the motherland of Africa and our African ancestors there, or who were there, and everything like that. Like, for some reason, people feel that way. And I don't know why that happens. It shouldn't. It shouldn't happen at all. And that's another thing I mentioned earlier too, is how you can see the stark difference of why we're unique here is because if you go to now, I'm just going to speak from my Jamaican friends. Everybody that I know who's Jamaican, I don't know a single Jamaican who ever says that they're African Jamaican. Every single Jamaican that I know will just simply say they're Jamaican. And they be proud as all outdoors. Like, I'm talking about, they get arrogant with it. Like, I'm Jamaican. Like a lot of my Jamaican, now I'm not speaking for everybody, but a lot of my Jamaican friends that I grew up with and stuff like that, they talk about Jamaica like it's the best thing in the world. Like I need to be Jamaican. you know, and I don't hear them say I'm African Jamaican. They say they're Jamaican.
Yep,
And so, and there's, oh, who's that?
that's Tiffany. I have the same experience, and every Jamaican I know is super proud. But there's no confusion that they understand that they have African ancestry.
There
Like
you
that
go.
is like it's something that doesn't even need to be spoken. It shows up, and
Hmm.
so there's no need to put that African in front of it. Very proud
Exactly.
people.
And that's the point. So it goes without saying that
Right.
they don't have a need to say, oh, I'm African Jamaican or whatever, because of the circumstances there. Now we are in a unique circumstance. So we have to say that we're African American. And the reason why we are a hyphenated group in terms of the technical terms of African American is because of our history here. Because we were denied the nationality for so long. We didn't become valid U.S. citizens until way later. Like I don't understand how people don't remember learning this in school. We didn't become legal citizens of this country in order to gain a nationality until way later. I don't know the exact day. We could look it up if somebody want to look it up real quick. But we didn't become citizens, which means that we didn't have a nationality until much later. So we couldn't claim to be Americans. But so there's a different unfolding that happened in Jamaica and other places. So these people are proud, like Trinidadian. I got some Trinidadian friends, man. They be like, man, Trinidad is all that in a bag of chips. People argue. If I make a mistake and call a Trinidadian a Jamaican, man, they correct me in a heartbeat.
But there's something about Trinidad that's kind of similar to us in that there's a lot of different people that are Trinidadian. It's not just black.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Trinidad. There's all different races that are called Trinidadian.
Yeah, but
So
they
I
don't. But
get I get the whole notion of yeah. Go ahead, Ujawu. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that like Jamaicans though, they don't go and say African Trinidadian though. They don't do that. They don't do
Right.
that. They're proud. They like so certain people, everybody but us knows to operate. That knows where the real party is at the level of nationality. That's where the party is. That's where the hors d'oeuvres are served. That's where the music is played. That's where the dance floor is at the level of nationality, not the level of continent. If you if this was a party event, the continental room, the room where people claiming continents, will be empty. No music playing, no decoration, no nothing. Everything is empty over there. The whole action, where all the action is happening, is at the level of nationality. And can nobody refute that, what I just said? Because there is no continental intercourse on the level of continent. And I don't know if people understand what I mean by levels. There's levels to this. So we could claim to be African, and see, when I talk to people like Rob Bourne or Garfield. Matter of fact, let me put Garfield's definition up. Garfield and everybody agreed to it. This is what Garfield, because Garfield said, because everybody knows Garfield is Jamaican, right? He has Jamaican, he's from Jamaica. Everybody knows that, right? And Garfield said that he is an African. And so I asked him, what does he mean by that when he says it? And then he said it. He said that I am a descendant of someone from the continent of Africa. That's what I got on the screen right now. That's what Garfield said. And I told Garfield, and the same to Rob Bourne, I said, listen, under that definition, I concede to that. I too am an African. I'm an African as well, according to that definition. That's it. Conversation over with. I'm an African according to that. But if we're going to talk about reparations and everything like that, now we have to table this definition, because this right here does not work. It's not included in the restorative justice claims and stuff. Therefore, Garfield is not included in the reparations fight of HR 40, et cetera, et cetera. And Garfield knows that. But not just Garfield, because I don't want people to think I'm picking on him. This is from the conversation earlier. Stu Pease as well. I was talking to Stu Pease. Stu Pease is Jamaican as well. Stu Pease and Garfield would not be included in the reparations conversation, even with his definition. And so he made my point for me. My point is that claiming a continent means nothing in regards to any actionable activity on the world stage. It is only to explicitly say you have roots in Africa, and I have roots in Africa, no doubt. Just like all African Americans. That's why the African in front of American implies that. We all have roots in Africa. Jamaicans don't even say African Jamaicans, but implicit in saying you're Jamaican, we know, hey, okay, you got African roots too. Now, when it comes to London folks, because I mean UK folks, I know some people in UK whose parents are from the Caribbeans, but they were born or raised in UK. They got a different thing. They say they're British, but they don't like it. But they're British citizens. They have British nationality. They come over here, they got a British passport. They got to run through the process like everybody else. They got to get a green card. They got to come over here on a visa and go through the immigration process, everything. You see, so this stuff is real simple, but I blame it on a lack of civics. I don't think civics is taught enough in schools nowadays. I know when I was in grade school, we actually have a course called civics. I don't know if they still do that stuff, but we learn the branches of government. We learn the responsibilities of each branch, which branch to go to for different grievances and whatnot, the judicial branch versus the legislative branch, what they do and stuff like that. And we learn the political aspect of it all between countries, the treaties, why there's treaties between countries. There is no treaty between a person. You're not going to find no treaty between John and Steve in modern days. In the international world, it's treaties between countries, bilateral treaties, all kinds of treaties. When you go to a country and you go to a consul general or a consulate office or what's the other thing, embassy, these are not for individuals. If you go to the American embassy in any country, that piece of land in that country is as if it's American soil. It's not Steve's house or Steve or individual. Everything is on the basis. Everything takes place on the level of nationality. So anyway, I got Rob Bourne's comment up here. I just want to say to Rob Bourne, I left all that stuff alone. I got drained from arguing because people rather argue than understand. So I did my teaching moments. I got videos up. And if you look at my channel, a lot of the videos got a lot of views. So I did my job. That's it. I done washed my hands of it right now. So my job is done as far as that goes. So I'm not going to no clubhouse fussing match. I'm not doing that. Nope. I'm not doing that. But anyway, I just want everybody to understand that. So that was a big thing. And if y'all don't get it, I'm gonna show this. I showed this earlier too, right? That you got two people right here, at the top, and y'all can't see my cursor, can you? I gotta see how I can change that. But let me just do this because I want y'all to see what I'm talking about. I talk with my cursor. So I got two people, right? And I'm gonna work my way from the bottom up, like I did earlier. I'm just going over what I did earlier. If we work our way, this is 4 levels, okay? Clearly 4 levels. Those levels being race, ethnicity, nationality, and then continent. So we got 2 different people On a level of race, both person A and B are black. So we can't make a distinction yet because both of them are black racially. Okay? Now when we go to the level of ethnicity, now we see a distinction being made. The one black person is African American, the other black person is Yoruba. That's the level of ethnicity. Then we go a level higher to level of nation, country, or nationality. The person A is an American. Person B is a Nigerian. Then we go to level of continent. Person A is a North American or on the continent of North America, and the person B is on the continent of Africa. And so I only did this to show and to reinforce in people's minds that at all times we have to respect and understand that we're dealing with layers and we can't blur the line. Different layers have different purposes and functionality. And my argument, my very consistent argument has been that the action starts at the level of nationality, this level right here. That's where that's where you invoke rights, concessions, benefits, protections, and everything from governments by being a member of the nation. That's just it. That's it, period. And I don't know how to make that any more simpler. It does not happen on the level of Africa. As I just showed you, the African Union that people like to invoke is not made up of individuals. It's made up of member states. And so when the argument, I think it was 2 years ago or whatever, I think Haiti tried to become a part of the African Union. I believe it was Haiti. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. But
yeah, something like that. But I think people thought that Haiti was trying to become a part, and they were happy about it. And then they started, when that wasn't feasible, people got upset or something like that.
Okay, yeah, something to that nature. And I remember when that was busting around on the internet. People were like, "Oh man," getting happy about that and everything, and nothing. And then it didn't come through, like you said. People got kind of mad. And I just observed that, and it's just some basic things that people don't understand. The African Union is set up for members of countries on the continent of Africa. So in order to benefit from anything the African Union does or and whatnot, you first have to be a member of one of its countries, which means you have to be a national of one of the 54, it's 55 member states. One of the 55 member states. I mean, how hard is that to understand? So if you're not a member of the state, then nothing the African Union does is for you or going to benefit you, because you're not included. You're outside the scope of that. It's just that simple. So again, where the rubber hits the road is at the level not of continent, it's the level of nationality. Period. And so people got to understand that. Okay, Akoma Jed says I'm wrong. Okay, let me bring Akoma Jed in here. So you got the floor. How am I wrong?
Well, greetings.
Greetings.
I think when you leaders of Africa formed the OAU, right? Their intention was to form a supranational political union. Okay, so the fragmentary nation state kind of psychology, it actually kind of need to be left in like the 20th century or the 19th century. You understand? Like the other nations, like even the United States of America, is really different states put together into one big country, and so is the Soviet Union. You understand? So and right now the EU and these people, they trying to add people to their political unions, because that's where it's at in world politics. You understand? So we in the West here, we really now the African Union. I heard you say that you cannot benefit from any of the activities and whatnot because we're not a member of the nation states on the continent of Africa. That's actually false because they have something called the sixth region of Africa, which considers the African diaspora. And most recently, during COVID times, they actually had a meeting between the AU and the Caricom. Caricom being the regional body for the Caribbean community, right? Caricom. And they was making certain bilateral agreements in terms of trade and transport and things like that. They want to establish a direct flight from the Caribbean to Africa, and they want to open up economic activities in fisheries, different things now. So yeah, like I think we need to edify ourselves about what is going on in the continent and what is the principles what established these organizations in the first place. Because I personally know, as a Rasta from Trinidad and whatnot, right? I put up on the internet the transcript and I read out Haile Selassie's speech in the inauguration of the OAU in 1963, right? Where there had 32 African states was present, the 32 independent states at that point in time. And in that speech now, he outlines the goal of the African and how they're seeking to become one in one into one body, but they have certain prerequisites in terms of communication, transportation systems, and other intercultural education and things like that. You know what I mean? So it's a work in progress. I don't think it's not something. I see some people be saying Pan-Africanism is a pipe dream and certain things like that. That's a defeatist nature because it's a work in progress, and even the heads of states of these places who are not really Pan-African in their psychology or Afrocentric in their identity or anything like that, they would be taking a slower route to reach certain revelations in their mind. Yeah, give thanks.
Okay. I appreciate your commentary, but you said I was wrong, and I was trying to figure out exactly what point I was wrong about, and it seems like you were saying the last part that when I said you're not benefit from it, but what I don't want to confuse is an aspiration or goal as being the reality right now. So we understand. So we understand that the goal of the ideology is what it is, but that's not what we're facing right now. So the African Union as it is right now, if we take a snapshot of it of what it is right now, it is what it is. And like you said, you in using your words, you said it's a work in progress, like the Pan-African movement and everything. It is a work in progress, and I think it's a great aspiration to do, and all of that good stuff. That's great, but the African Union as it stands right now has member states. This is their website, and they clearly outline the 5 regions, the geographic regions, and then the 55 member states on their website. And
all
if you look,
just when I
Okay.
mentioned the 6th region, have you heard of this? Have you heard of that at all?
well, okay, let's get to that because I'm on the African Union's website, and it says the African AU stands for African Union. The African Union is made up of 55 member states, which represent all the countries on the African continent. AU member states are divided into 5 geographic regions, which were defined by the OAU in 1976, and then they list them. Now you're mentioning a 6th region, so maybe you can pull up the region or let me know, and I can pull it up while I have this shared, and we can go over it.
Just simply type it into your Google, the 6th region of Africa, and see what the Wikipedia or any kind of general description gonna tell you about it.
Okay, so let me do that. Because I don't think this is gonna like negate the point that I made though, in terms of the national, the activity or where the party is actually engaged is at the level of nationality. You know, you said the 6th region.
Yeah.
of what? Say it again. Sixth region. Okay, sixth region of Africa.
Yeah.
The sixth zone. Is it? They call it the sixth zone.
It might be interchangeable. It might be.
Okay, no, I'm. It's a couple of results here.
Yeah, but while we're doing that, I think it's always good to just not be diverted so much, because if you're talking about the African Union, then you go to the African Union and then you see how they divide what it is that they designate as the states that they represent. And if they decide to designate under 3, 4, or 5, that's what you go by, because that's what they're telling you on their website. That this is how we divide the regions that we represent, or that are members of this organization, and they put them into 5 geographical regions. So you have to go by their definitions, and then they give you all the countries that they put under. So going outside of what the African Union is going to be not talking about what the African Union is.
No, it's not. It's not that I was attempting to go outside. I'm saying that the African Union have put forward this notion of the sixth region of the African diaspora, and
Is
I
it?
also saying,
Is it on their website?
that, well, maybe if you peruse their website, you might see it. You know what I mean? But I definitely
Well,
Okay, I understand.
style this out of my own consciousness or anything like that. And what I'm saying is
I
that
get you.
even okay, all you mightn't catch that, or they didn't catch that news, but it was live streamed, right? The meetings of the heads of state between African heads of states and the Caribbean heads of state, right? And it was a big, it was a kind of historical event, and all of these kind of notions we're talking about, sixth region and these things, is what was being discussed on that at that event, the
yeah.
the Caricom EU Summit.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, so just to kind of separate the conversation though, the driving point that I've made was the levels and where the action takes place, which is the level of national level, is never a continental level. Okay, and so I was saying, the only reason why I brought up the African Union in the first place was that the African Union is invoked in these conversations, and see, I can tell are you from, where are you from?
I'm from Trinidad.
Okay, so you're from Trinidad. Now, I know just in my experience here in America, United States, that any conversation that I witness or am a part of that that deals with Africa, people tend to talk about it without saying so. They tend to talk about Africa as if it's a country, and
No,
and
uh,
and
yeah.
and so because of it, we tend to think that there's a level of claiming the continent where some action is going to take place, because we subconsciously perceive it as a country in these conversations, and that's not the case. It is the 54 55 countries on the continent where the action have, being a member of those
All right. Well,
on the country level.
I want to just keep us aware, right, that
Okay.
the 54 states what it have in Africa, this was described as balkanization and fragmentation by Same Selassie in the inauguration of the Organization of Africa Unity speech, right, in 1963. So what the state of Africa currently is basically not ideal to how we want it. It have large ethnic groups and language groups and things. It's supposed to have way fewer states than what it have right now. You understand? Now look at the geographic size of America, the United States of America, right? And it have 51 regions, or 51 states in America. And we don't really perceive it as such, but in legalities and in certain things, these are like autonomous regions almost within a political federation called the United States of America. You know what I mean? So easily Africa could become federated into such a large nation. We're taking up most of the continent, like how United States take up a large part of North American continent. We could have a united Africa or African state then that encompassing that continental landmass as well. your words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, no, I got that. So
Woo, did you see the
yes,
link on that page that talks about the diaspora division? I can maybe you can
on
post it.
on this page that I'm showing on my screen.
I don't know. It's the AU. I just looked. I mean, yeah, I just looked at the African Union and it was there. It was the diaspora division or something
Read
like
it,
that.
read it, read it out for us, or show
I'm
me a
not. I'm not going to read that whole thing. It's a lot. It says the
Okay, no,
diaspora
I have it.
division. You have
I
it.
got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I
He
got it. So
put in
let
a
me
But I'm
share. Let me
spot.
show it.
yeah.
Let me show it on the screen. So let me stop sharing that. I'm gonna show it on the screen. So this is coming from where is it coming from? It's coming from Wikipedia, actually. All right.
The one I got
Region.
was actually from the AU page itself. So I'm just saying they do
Okay,
have a.
can you put the link in
I'll
this
put it in
chat
the
in
back
here?
chat. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, put it there. I'll pull that one up. I'm gonna share this one for now. We can look at both of them. So this is coming from Wikipedia, and if I go all the way to the top, regions of the African Union. The member states of the African Union are divided into 5 geographic regions of the African Union. And you look at the superscript, it's taking you to that source. Then it goes on to say the African Diaspora, which includes people of African descent living outside of the African continent, such as the Americas, Australia, Asia, and Europe, has been officially recognized by the AU as its 6th region.
What's the source on that?
The source on this is Serafina Keme, a book entitled or a paper entitled Diaspora as the 6th region of Africa, blah, blah, blah. All right, as you can see. I don't know if you can you see that on the screen? Yeah, you should be able to see it.
Yeah, so I say
Okay, but wait, let's click on it. I'm gonna click on it as the 6th region. So we got 5 and then 6. I'm gonna click on it to go down to this page. Let's read it. We're gonna read it together.
Yeah, man.
So it says Africa Diaspora. In the Constitutive Act of the African Union, and this took place when? July of 2000, I'm assuming. Under amended Article 3Q of Act, the objectives, the following is stated regarding the African diaspora. Quote, invite and encourage the full participation of the African diaspora as an important part of our continent in building the African Union. End quote. Additionally, the African Union provides definition for its concept of the African diaspora as the following. Quote, the African diaspora consists of people of African origin living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. So they create their definition to make it clear and unambiguous, right? And I'm just gonna read a little bit more because it's not that much.
Read it, man. Read it.
Yeah. I'm saying I'm making sure it wasn't real long.
Right.
In 2016, the African Union denied membership to Haiti due to its membership admission, as per Article 29.1 of the Constitutive Act of the African Union, being limited to any African state. So I was correct about Haiti, as far as the place, because I wasn't sure if it was Haiti or not. In the African Union Handbook 2021, persons who have been appointed to represent the African diaspora at the Assembly of the African Union have been granted the status of observer. More specifically, the African Union Handbook states, in January 2008, the Executive Council suggested that the African diaspora be treated as Africa's 6th region and its participation in the AU's organs and activities be strengthened. The Assembly has recognized the diaspora as a substantive entity contributing to the economic and social development of the continent and has invited its representatives as observers to Assembly sessions. It goes on to say, last paragraph, the African Union has also established regional institutions such as the Western Hemisphere African Diaspora Network, the international institutions such as the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council to facilitate African diaspora relations. Additionally, the African Union works together with Africa Recruit, the Caribbean Community and Common Market, and the Commonwealth Business Council, the International Organization for Migration, and the World Bank to facilitate African diaspora relations regionally and internationally. Furthermore, individual countries such as Ghana, Ethiopia, Nigeria, South Africa, in Africa, have also undertaken national efforts to facilitate African diaspora relations internationally.
And
Okay, so now having read that, so what this is establishes
I would just
is
ask you
that
if you could, if like
okay.
how the sister say she saw it on the official website, to just check what they're saying on the official website as well.
Okay, all right, let's do that. And then once we do that, I want to come back to this one because I want to unpack it because I don't want to miss the point. All right, so can I do this? I probably got to unshare. All right, I got to unshare and share again. Y'all give me 1 minute, 1 second.
See.
So come out of that and put this up. All right, so this is from the website. This is what Miss Tiffany found on the website, from the website. So here we go. I think I gotta blow this up. Now it should be big enough. Nope, let me blow it up so we can all read it together. Okay, now this is from the AU website itself. The Diaspora Division. The Diaspora Division serves as the focal point and hub for implementing the African Union decision to invite and encourage the African diaspora to participate in the building and the development of the African continent. Its main task, therefore, is to serve as a catalyst for rebuilding the global African family in service of the development and integration agenda of the continent. The division is under the Directorate Office of the Department and takes directives and instructions from the Directorate Office. The main how long is this? I'm sorry. Oh, it's not that long. All right.
Run it, man.
The main constituents of the Diaspora Division are the African diaspora. The African Union defines the African diaspora as, and this is what we say, consisting of people of African origin living outside the continent, irrespective of their citizenship and nationality, and who are willing to contribute to the development of the continent and the building of the African Union. Its constitutive act declares that it shall, quote, invite and encourage the full participation of the African diaspora as an important part of our continent in the building of the African Union. Within this context, the Diaspora Division serves as a counterpart of the Civil Society Division for the diaspora. As such, it carries out responsibilities that its counterpart performs for civil society for the African diaspora. Core responsibilities. So here's going to be bulleted. 1. Mainstreaming diaspora participation in the African Union agenda across departments, partnership frameworks, and a wide range of policy activities, including the flagship agenda. 2. Strengthening the operational capacity of the African Union to support diaspora involvement in the AU activities through regular communication and flow of information on AU events and activities and vice versa. Cross-fertilization of AU program and diaspora activities and mapping of African diaspora around the world. 3. Serving as focal point for accreditation of diaspora organizations and network as observers, delegates, and participants at AU Summit and other meetings. Next, managing and coordinating other forms of interaction between AU and diaspora organizations worldwide. This includes collaboration on policy and advocacy efforts of diaspora networks and coalitions, technical support and assistance, enabling framework of cooperation and working relations. Next, enabling participation of diaspora in CSO pre-summit forums and promoting effective collaboration between diaspora civil society organization and approximate bodies on the continent. Next, promoting the effective linkage between diaspora and various organs of the Union, including that one and Pan-African Parliament, among others. Last one, interfacing the African diaspora with the work of different departments of the AU Commission and their programs and efforts. Last paragraph, the program of activities are, however, adapted to the context in which the program for diaspora participation in AU activities of the Diaspora Division developed within the context of the Protocol on the Amendment to the Constitutive Act of 2003. Okay, so now that we've went over that, we could stay here because the other one quoted the same definition. Obviously, this is like the official definition of how they're defining the African diaspora, and then its participation. So one thing we can clearly see with this is that everything is geared towards activities on the continent to participate and help build or deal with things of the African Union itself on the continent.
Naturally.
Okay. So right. So the continent being 55 member states. So I want you to notice something here. And let me bring whoever ADOS thing is, probably Rob Bowen making fun.
Now, one little side point, right? Was he Rabon is raising, right? He's trying to say that people who went through the transatlantic slave trade, he's saying that when they're talking about diaspora, they omitting us from that definition, and he trying to say that is expatriates
But
from the continent.
before we get to there, before we get to anything extra, I want to unpack what we read though, and come to some kind of meaningful unpacking of what we've read, what it means, the reality of it. Here's the thing. You introduced to us the 6th division, and on the homepage of the website, they don't have it under their definitions. Even in the Wikipedia article, they said 5, but then they acknowledged the 6th one. And for me, that's kind of confusing. They need to update their website.
You saw it big and bold, 6 region, the diaspora.
Yeah, they need to say 6 regions. Okay, but here's the difference now. The 6th region does not include any member states, whereas the 5 regions, the 5 original regions, actually have member states involved. So the takeaway from all of this is that the 6th region serves more so almost like an honorary division, because for the purpose of participation in resources to help build the 5 other divisions.
Well, this is
the actual member states.
This is the whole spirit of Pan-Africanism, because just like, remember I mentioned brain drain previously, right?
Yes.
Right now they need the bright and the talent and the skilled workers and things to build the continent of Africa and the whole economy and the whole infrastructure, everything. Because remember now, the continent have been retarded by the Europeans and other ones. You understand? So the whole goal and trust of the African Union and the whole point of Pan-Africanism is to actually raise the esteem of the African in the world. You understand? So the whole that is in keeping with the whole principle of Pan-Africanism, and that is the whole agenda. So they want to build the continent of Africa, and they need the Africans who outside Africa to help and chip in that process. Yeah.
Okay, I listen, brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up, brain drain, because that's an actual way that people describe it. And for those who don't know, brain drain is when a country has its intellectuals leave, and then the country is left with their highly skilled workers and specialists leaving the country, therefore leaving the country bare and not being able to develop. That's the gist of what brain drain is. And so I'm glad you brought that up though, because them recognizing a 6th division as the diaspora division is exactly for that purpose, is to use that as a resource to build, to help build the actual member states of the AU itself. So there's a separation between the AU and then the recognizing the 6th division as the diaspora. So it's almost like, okay, I need your help and I need your skill set to help build this thing out over here. So now here's the point, and I'm glad you did that, because it doesn't help the point of why this originally came up. in the first place. And so the thing is that none of this and what they describe and the help they need is for people here in the United States in our processes and legislation. Nothing is going to happen for
No,
any of that.
no, not. I know you're a fella, is a deep thinker and whatnot. So you could,
Wait, but can we agree to that? Like nothing that I
No, no,
read
no. I don't
is to
agree to that at all.
is to help.
That's
Okay,
what I
go
was
ahead.
prefacing what I was saying. So what I mean to
All
say,
right,
okay, is like
all right.
in international, okay, black people, let's say in America, we see that they be violated by the by the state in various ways, in housing and in police brutality, all kind of thing, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
due to, no, you think somebody from let's say from a foreign country in Europe, right? Somebody from
Mm-hmm.
Germany or Poland or so, going to face any kind of illegal injustice and don't have um basically a whole institution, a whole nation to look up for the interests in your country, in America. You understand? So it come like when we build Africa and the economy and the military and all these things, you wouldn't be able to be treated like a rag doll all here and there in people country. You understand? So it really does have it have benefits. It might not be right in front of your face, but it have direct benefits and residual benefits of us building up the African continent. It's now about what you could do for me, like, because even self they opening up the thing. So I feel like we have to, on this side, engage with the AU and tell them and put our agendas on the board and these kind of things. You understand? Because they opening visa-less transportation and all of these kind of things. You know what I mean? So
Okay, so let me.
I was gonna say real quick that I know you all talk that they need to be clear on how, with how they say the 55 member states and then the six out of those 5 regions and then the sixth region, but they're actually being clear if you actually read it properly, because they're actually separating between the 5 regions that includes those 55 member states, and then they say that the sixth region, which they do recognize, and this happens if you actually keep up with continental news at all times. You'll understand, especially during elections and politics, that countries or these sovereign states have come to realize. Obviously, we're living, it's 2022, we're living in a globalized world now. So they realize that there are actually diasporan Africans that can actually help towards building their countries, and this is because a lot of Africans have actually migrated to Europe, to Australia, to Asia, and whatnot. So you see actually that they're doing the same thing, that when you're politicking, you actually also use your diasporan citizens to garner your votes and whatnot. So this is recognizing as well the fact that there are actually diasporan Africans that they can actually also utilize in whatever it is that is needed, and that's why you see the language that they use, and they mention the diasporians in the Americas, in the Australias, Asia, and Europe, and all that other states, because we know that there actually are Africans who actually have migrated abroad. So that also needs to be kept, in question. And then when you go down and you read what it is that the African diaspora sector has, it will be different. It's different from the AU member states, and they say whoever represents the African diaspora, the persons represent those, will participate on the level of observer. you know and then so it's not the same as the participation of the member of the 55 member
and
states when they
and
have those. And so I'm hold on a second. So I'm just saying that it's very clear, so people should not actually think it's very clear. And even when it says on Wikipedia why that situation with Haiti happened, they did say about Article 29.1. And if you read Article 29.1, why that was impossible and why that has precipitated to actually them adjusting to this kind of thought frame that we have now is because of that Article 21.1 that states that the member states actually have to be states that actually are found on the geographical location itself that is called Africa. So if they're adjusting, when you read it, you have to first ask yourself, what or who do they mean by African diasporians, so that you're very clear on that. And then to emphasize that further, I would suggest that you actually read what have they changed in Article 29.1, because that will tell you if, because they cannot use Article 29.1 while actually talking about what we are actually talking about. So to change that or to add that Article 29.1 will also have to be adjusted. So you just have to make sure that you are very clear on the definitions that they're using, because African diaspora is also used to actually designate to people who migrate from the African continent.
Hey, brother
Um,
Wujawa. You there,
Hey,
Wujawa?
but what? Yeah, 1 second though. Let's just she said a lot though, so that's some
Yeah,
very important point.
that's
I
real.
just, what's your
That's
It's
sister
real.
name? What's your sister
that's
It's
speaker
key,
name?
man. That what she
hold up,
said is key.
wait. That's a whole that's a mouthful, and we can't let that slide because
No,
that's why I wrote
I think that's the dopest. The
on the
dopest.
slide here.
Yeah, that's the dopest point. And you didn't see it, but there's a map on that site, right?
No,
And that
it's a map. It wasn't
right,
showing up on when I was sharing it, but I see it.
right.
Was
But
this
this,
was
I'm
this
gonna
sister
one
name who now spoke?
one quick statement, and
That
that's
was
it.
Emiket.
You, you know what's the saddest point about this is that a lot of us, like, if you represent Pan Africanism, you always heard about the sixth division, but never really looked into it. And when you look into it, like I did, and reached out to the chairperson who lives in Canada, you then find out that that don't have anything to do with us at all, meaning African Americans. That is just specifically exactly what she said is for those immigrants who come here to the Americas. Now, when you've done with this, if you want, Ujabo, there's a site that's called State of the African Diaspora. Now, that has a headquarters that they've just put in Jamaica and Apang and Akumpang in that maroon territory. That is supposed to directly deal with us. But I did the thing. They said that you could have voting power on the AU. You're supposed to get a passport and all these things. Spoke to the individual, did all of that, filled out the paperwork, and 6 months later found out it's fluff. So I don't know why that was brought. I don't know why this was brought up in our conversation, but this don't got nothing to do with us as far as
Rabon,
Okay.
Rabon, into like how you want to say this don't have nothing to do with us. Were you aware of the Caricom EU Summit do I talk about? What mention?
oh, you talking about yeah, I know about Robert Beckles and all that, but that's
No,
a
no,
different
no, no. Recently, it had a meeting of heads of state
right,
of the
right.
Caribbean heads of
That's a
state.
different subject though, brother. This
No, because
African Union, I mean, it gotta stick to the text, brother. This is specifically for member states. And those when if we was to ask you to show us the tangibles of the African Union for any place in the Americas that affect us or any businesses, schools, or any of that, you won't be able to show it.
but I now spoke about it. That's what I'm telling you. Just last year had the first meeting between the Caribbean heads of state and the
Uh-huh.
head of state of the African continent, right? It was
Mhm.
called the Caricom EU Summit. Now in this summit, a lot
That,
of a lot
that's the
so
2000. I want to be correct. That's for make sure. That's the
it,
2063 plan, right? That what you talking about?
no, I'm not talking about that.
All right. So go ahead.
Just simply it the what Ujau could bring that up afterwards if you want to. Type in the Caricom EU Summit. I believe it's 2021 it happening, right? But what I'm saying to say that is that's a historical meeting what took place and they had certain bilateral agreements made. You understand? So not because you're in a present moment in time, it don't mean that certain communications and certain channels and things can open up in the future. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I agree with you, but even when you look at this, most of the member states don't even pay their dues, and the majority of the African Union is funded by the European Union. So when you have that dynamic, that means that that money that is being put forth to, even though these are independent countries that's around, that's a problem. That's more destabilization, more all of that. So it could do a lot more, but they have their own problems. And I'm just saying, I'm just here to say to you, brother, there's no tangibles with this, with our people here. Unless you go back in the beginning with Kwame and all this other stuff, and this stuff starts to formulate the idea. And to after that, bro, it's nothing, bro. I'm sorry, man. And I
All
was
right, but
upset. I was
I hear
hurt
you,
when I
Argo.
read
And
this.
no,
I
no,
was
no,
hurt.
no. Don't get hurt, man. Don't get hurt. No, I understand what you're saying completely, right? But what I'm saying is, remember, the people who you have to understand and put everything in a context. You know, you can't speak so idealistically and think that everything gonna be rosy and nice. You know, you have to understand Africa was under heavy colonial thing. They fragmented under religious and tribal lines. It have various issues. You
Yeah,
understand?
I
The
agree with
people,
you,
the
but
people who in leadership
we feel
positions,
hurt from this though.
the
Like
people who
I
in
don't. Go
leadership
ahead.
positions and the prime ministers and the government officials and things, most times is the people who have been the best trained in Eurocentric methodologies and psychologies and things. You understand? So the Pan-African worldview and ideals and things, it may be found in certain pockets and it might spur up here and there. But you understand, it's a propaganda and is a propaganda war right now between the capitalist Eurocentric model of what we're saying and the African grassroots psychology. Then you understand?
I agree with you with that, and that's the only way that we do see that happening is with the grassroots. But talking about this Pacific Union, and for anyone who actually reads this and look up all of the critiques that's behind this, and when you look at it, we always heard it. It's like something like if you heard Africa real name was Aquabulon, and you just that's something that you just heard, and I never looked it up. You just don't do it because this is what your group is saying. But then when I actually looked at it, and like, I want to be a part of this. I want to get down with this. And when I went to go do this process, I was hurt because I had this belief in my brain that, yeah, this right here, this is the stuff that this is forming that connection that Malcolm tried to do. And when I see that that's not there, that when people see that, it's going to bother them. It's going to really bother them because that's how for whatever reason, certain things just click in your brain and it causes that type of emotion, man. And
If I may,
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. This is your show.
no, I'm just trying to because I want to deal with it as everything as it comes up. So so let me just switch back to this. I got that share, but let me switch back to this. So here's a summary of everything we were saying so far about the African Union, right? The AU is the African Union, and the AU is made up of 50 member states. And so remember when we just read that as of recently, they recognized a sixth division, and that division, the purpose of that division is basically, in a nutshell, to offer assistance to help build the 55 member states, which is the AU. So the sixth division is technically not the AU. It's recognized by the AU so it can get help for the AU, because the African Diaspora division contains no member states at all, which technically is not the AU. Now, how do we know that? Is because of what happened to Haiti. So now I'm gonna share this. This is the actual constitutive that we read. This is the actual constitution of the AU, right? So Article 29, number 1 is what they made reference to. So let's read it. It says admission to membership. Number 1, any African state. So Haiti is already precluded or barred from being a member right there. So that knocks them out right there. It says any African state may at any time after the entry into force of this act notify the chairman of commissions of its intention to accede to this act and be admitted as a member of the union. So that's what they were saying, that Haiti does not fit this part of the article. Therefore,
I don't think that's
Haiti.
problematic at all. I don't think that's problematic at all. You remember now
Well,
it have international law and it have so these people constituting an organ so that for the political and economic union of the African continent. Like and we here in the West expecting them to to basically be taken, because remember now, like the people who in United States or Caribbean or whatever, we have our own nationality and whatever it is, right?
yeah, yeah.
And they so in a way they would be infringing upon certain international sovereignties and thing by trying to amalgamate us in such a way. Then you understand? Now,
Yeah,
and
but
even the bylaws of the article, the bylaws of the constitution of the organization, all of these things are also subject to reformation and these kind of things. So I would say that. mm,
well. I want to separate describing it as problematic versus describing what it actually is. So I just don't want any confusion for anybody to think that just because the African Union recognize a division that they're calling the African Diaspora, that African Diaspora that they recognize is the actual African Union, which it is not, because it is all about the 55 member states. And so as African Americans, if we were to entertain this and start to, as I said, to participate and be willing to help and whatnot, we're still not a part of the African Union itself. We would be considered, if possible, African diaspora, but we would be in an observatory situation, and we would not be included, as this shows right here in the Constitution. So once again, the overarching point that I was making is that the level of engagement has always been on the level of country or nationality, period. And so when on, not on the level of continents,
what do you mean the
you
level of
see,
engagement?
by level of engagement is that all the intercourse and actionable things take place at the national level. That's where it starts, not at the continental level. Like there's no treaty between Africa and Europe as continents. There's no treaty between Africa and Asia as continents. There's no governing body that's going to set up a treaty between continents and this, that, and the third. It's always countries. It's always countries. Countries interact with countries, not continents. Continents don't interact with continents.
Right, but
There's no documentation. There's no constitution of Africa. There's no constitution of
yes,
Asia, and then
it
having
is.
whatever.
The constitution,
I
the
I think this is
constitution
where everybody got
of the
confused, bro.
AU.
Even I think he got DJ confused, and this is how I got from what you're saying. So you basically talking about laws and the way how we get things done is based off of your nationality, and you saying
That's
that
where it
because
starts.
you
Yep,
use the
that's where it
term,
starts.
and then okay, I
No,
agree with that, right? But then
I
you
That's
say
wasn't
where it
talking
starts.
because no, we gonna get to it. But then because you use the term African, you saying there's no legislative power in African, right? Only the nationality, because that's where the
Yes.
things get done based off of that. Now,
Yeah. So
when it
Rob,
comes to
wait,
that,
Rob,
I think
wait,
I
right,
say
go
wait,
ahead,
that's a false
Rob,
notion.
Rob.
That
go
Hold
ahead.
incorrect.
on, Rob on. Just
Yeah,
on
go
a
ahead.
smaller scale,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
be even more clear.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
if if you were to go to court for any reason,
Mm-hmm.
your ability to like okay, let me back up. I'm sorry. We have to involve the word jurisdiction. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
The only way that a court can even hear your complaint, or whether you're a plaintiff or a defendant, Rob Bourne, is if the court has jurisdiction to do any action on your behalf or behalf of others, right? So now
Go ahead.
the only way that you can actually enter a court and have regress and whatever the case is not going to be based on anything dealing with a continent. It's going to always be based on the fact that of your nationality, your membership within the nation.
No,
and
no,
so
no,
and so
no, Wujao.
Nah, I
I
get
need
it.
you. I need
Yeah, I
you
get
to
it. I'm
repeat.
gonna let you go right now. I'm gonna let you go right now. I swear, I'm gonna be quiet real quick. So I guess that's where the disagreement comes in,
That is the
because
disagreement.
even though we're here, right, as the nationality is American, that ethnic group that becomes discriminated of, or that ethnic group that is here has a specific history, and that out of that group that identify ethnically with the term African because of our shared history, when we put our grievances together, that is the title that we come in under. Because that's just a term that we all went over earlier. We don't gotta rehash it of what we use. We don't just go there to them to be like, I'm an American and I'm being disenfranchised when it's something that's affecting us nationally. Case in point would be the civil rights movement, right? Case in point will be the first with Adam Powell with the first trade union. When you look
Yeah.
at what they're writing, they're putting this ethnicity there because this specific group is being penalized. Now, in law, let's say the bill they just passed, the Asian hate bill, right? Is it
yeah.
only talking about Asians? It's named that, but you can't make a law based off of a race, right? So, but it's
Well,
named that because
Asian
this
is not a race
specific,
though, is it?
yeah, I get it, but Asia's a continent, according to the same thing you said, right? However, it's called, well, what do they mean by the name of the bill is Asian hate? It's the Asian hate bill. Is it
Well,
continent
let's look at
hate
it. Let's
bill?
look at it. What
No,
Yeah,
is it
look
no,
it up.
called?
no. One second, yeah. To the point of jurisdiction, Wujao, right? I want to
Mhm.
bring up the case of the EU, because if you're a person, a member of the EU, the highest appellate court, however, would be the High Court of the EU. You understand? So if you have a problem in your state and you find in your country you get a problem here and your ruling wasn't just, you could have go over the jurisdiction of your local country then and go to the court of the EU and get your matter sorted out. You understand? So where the nation state consciousness is not where it's at right now in this modern world. Is in blocks, regional blocks. You understand? So the EU consolidate themselves. America has done that already. Is a set of different states, and it just seeming like one big country, but it's different states with different laws, and they under one federation.
Okay, so let me just double down on what I'm saying is that the only reason why you can even enter the court to have any say so or the courts be open to you, Raborn, is because of your citizenship. There was a time in this country where we had no standing in court. And when I say we, I'm talking about African Americans prior to, during slavery, whatever. We had no regress or anything. We had no say so or anything. And it's because of our citizenship here that we actually have access to the court system and the legal system and everything like that. And so the only reason I brought that up is to reemphasize or illustrate what I'm saying is that claiming a continent does not have any actionable things happening at that level. It's always at the level of your nationality where you actually engage. The actual engagement happens. So if you were not a United States citizen, you would not have that access. That's why people who are not United States citizens, when something goes wrong or they get busted, whatever, they get sent to where? ICE or immigration stuff. They don't have access to the court system like we do.
I don't think that's
Yeah,
correct
yeah.
either. I don't think that's correct
I
either, because if I'm a Trinidadian, I come to holiday in America and somebody shoot me, I definitely would go in front. I'm sure that the person who shoot me would be brought in front of the court and I would get justice and whatnot. You understand? You might not
That's
have the
that's
same
that's that's
legal right.
only that's only if the person that shot you was an American citizen. But if a Trinidadian shot another Trinidadian,
In in
it's
in
different.
if a
And I know this for a
Trinidadian shot
fact.
a Trinidadian in United States, you saying that United States have no jurisdiction to see about that? That not sounding realistic.
Okay, look it up because I've seen that happen.
yeah, they're
In
gonna
not
they're
not
gonna
not
get
in not in a
justice and then
They're
get
gonna
not
deported.
in a
they
shooting.
must get justice. Like if a crime is if the law of the land is this and somebody doing something wrong to that, you understand? It don't matter where they come from. They're gonna be subjected to the laws of the land in that
Okay, now
particular
that's
place.
now that's like intuitive thinking. You would think so, but I witnessed a not a shooting though, but I witnessed a situation where there was, I think it was a divorce that got ugly, um, or something happened with a domestic situation, and the person was denied whatever because they were not citizens of this country. And I wish I had it quickly. I could show it to y'all, but I'll find it for another time, where actually have the transcript of the session, the hearing, and the whole thing of what was said about that, and the laws that was quoted to support whatever. And so,
Nah,
but back the my bottom line point though is that we don't get these things by claiming continents. The continental level is cool to claim and stuff, but it's empty when it comes to actionable, effective regress, redress, and all that other kind of stuff. It is always on a national
right.
level.
Uh,
Even the AU,
Mhm.
even the AU that I still have on the screen. I mean, that part. Even the AU should clue us in on that, because
I
the
think we
AU
glossing over the
when they
part. We glossing over
huh?
the part, right? That we trying to establish that America, where
Okay.
all is now, America, where all is now, is an amalgamation of many different nation states into one federation, right? So that's why you have the federal government, and the federal laws is trump the local state laws, right? These places.
No, no,
Well,
it doesn't.
elaborate for me. So the federal law is not doesn't trump the state law.
No, the 50 states are sovereign up until the point of domestic defense and stuff. So all states are sovereign entities, but they relinquish a small portion of their sovereignty for the union of not being able to form an army or military, and these things. And you have the Constitution governing federal
Hmm.
intrastate travel between from state to state and so on and so forth, and the governance
Okay.
of money and the financial things. So
So your
so
passport, they
states,
say your passport, you're getting a passport from every single state, or you're getting an American passport.
American passport, exactly. So there's only one nation state. It's
Exactly.
not
So what I'm
50.
telling
It's
you
not
is
50.
they have decided to concert themselves together into one state. They have to form a political union into
Yeah.
one
Yep.
state. Right. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So this is the same idea with the African Union, but it's just in a much earlier stage of development to reach that stage. Yeah.
Well, see, no, but okay, see that I'm glad you said it, because no, that's not the way to look at the African Union, and that's why everybody looks at Africa as a country, because
No.
but wait,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
our
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, so listen to what you just said.
Yeah.
The United States of America is one single country, but it consists of 50 states, and we use the word states when we describe that situation. And
Hmm.
so because we perceive 50 states coming together to form a more perfect union, as the Constitution says, um, and a confederacy, a union of the United States of America to form a single country. So we look at that activity, and then we look at the African Union, and we see 55 states or member states coming together to form a union called the African Union. We think it's parallel to that. Like the African Union is a country, like the
It
United
has not
States
reached.
is a
That's what
country,
I'm saying.
but
It's
it's
in a
not. But it's
developmental
not.
stage of progress. If you to check the actual the goal of the AU is to reach a political union. That's what. So it's just that it obviously always have different nations might say no, we don't want that or whatever, but they participating in the union. You understand? So
Yeah,
a
but
better thing to try to parallel to would be the European Union, where
yeah,
England
yeah,
and
yeah,
and the England left them the other day or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But it would be the EU,
yeah,
because those are completely different countries: Germany, France,
yeah.
Poland,
But I,
whatever.
but what we got to what we cannot do is to miss the extra layer. The United States, you cannot compare the 50 states of the United States coming together as one union called the United States of America as the same set of layers as the 55 countries coming together to form the AU. That's that you're missing a whole nother layer because the
Tell me
50
the
states are
layer.
not countries.
Tell
The
me the
50
layer.
the 50 states are the 50 states are not countries coming together. They're 50
All right.
jurisdictions. They're
Okay.
50
Well, that
separate
all right. So I
jurisdictions.
told you. So because it's even hard to conceptualize the 50 states as different countries. All right. Now to you, I is watch it too, but let's remove
No,
the American and let's
they're not.
focus on the EU. The EU, where these are separate countries, right, of different
Mhm.
languages and whatnot, but they have formed a political union called the EU, where you could travel, board, move around, you could work and function, and you have a European Union passport and these kind of things, and you're afforded the rights of a European citizen. That's what I'm talking about. So it on yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what the African Union trying to work towards. Yeah.
If the I think the best way is actually to just go on understand from the African Union itself what they tell you, what they're there for. And also understanding the reason why the African Union was formed in the first place, because you have to remember that a lot of African countries, African Union was actually formed in, the first African organization that became the African Union was formed in 1963. So during the 1950s, late 1950s and the early 1960s, a lot of countries, a lot of African countries were gaining their independence from colonialism. So then you have this these states that become sovereign on their own. They are there, and I think this is what Immortal Truth was actually saying, and that's correct. They are the baby stages in the fact that these are countries, these are new baby countries. They were colonized for a long time, and then now they became sovereign. And once they became sovereign, then they understood that they have a long way to go, first and foremost, and they need to stick together first and foremost to maintain their sovereignty. So there is not one point now or in the future where they're actually thinking of giving up that sovereignty to become like
Yeah.
what people are trying to
No,
say.
no, no.
So hold on.
Empress Emiket,
No,
I would have I know as facts, right, from the leaders of the heads of government from 1963 that it was the vision to become fully political. In fact, the whole contention in 1963 was between two different political ideologies of Pan Africanism. One was the Monrovia bloc, and the next one was the Casablanca bloc, right? Now, and what their dispute was that Kwame and Nkrumah and them wanted to immediately form one political union with the continent of Africa, right? And then it had other people who were trying to hold on to the little pieces of Africa and keep it cross hatched and checkerboarded into the 55 states what it is now, right? So that was the main contention was between why we don't form a big union now and the other people saying no, we want to keep our sovereignty, right? And then they had a median position espoused by Ethiopia and whatnot. We wanted the gradual progress towards a political union, but they had prerequisites in terms of transportation systems, communication systems, economic participation, and education systems and things. All of this was laid out in 1963, but we have amnesia and we didn't check his speeches and we forgot. So we say now
okay,
that
so
that wasn't the vibes, but that was the vibes.
Okay, so let me just finish because what you're saying is that's something that is already known. I'm not speaking about what transpired before the African Union was formed. I'm actually talking about why the African Union is what the African Union today is. That obviously whatever everything that you're talking about didn't transpire because people wanted to keep the sovereignty, and that's what I'm saying. That the sovereignty is one of the things that African Union is not trying to take away from those people, obviously. Otherwise, you would not see a lot of member states in the African Union. So that just needs to be very clear. And I'm only saying is if you project what you would like the African Union to be as opposed to what the African Union is, you're going to have difficulties. So the best thing is just to understand what the African Union
This
is.
is what I'm
And then
saying.
and oh, hold on, let me just finish. And they
Go
make
ahead,
it
go ahead.
very clear because if you go on their site, on their website, they will tell you that they're there to promote unity and solidarity of the African states. They want to coordinate and intensify cooperations and efforts between the different African peoples and to defend their sovereignty, their territorial integrity, and independence, to eradicate all forms of colonialism from Africa, and to promote international cooperation, having due regard to the Charter of the United Nations and the Universal Declarations of Human Rights. So already they're clear on what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. So trying to say what you want them to do, that is actually the opposite of what they're trying to do. That
No,
is
my,
actually you.
I don't accept the charge that I trying to project my wishes onto the AU. I'm
It doesn't
quoting.
have to be you necessarily at this point.
And
So
I know, but within this point, within the conversation, I would expect is me you kind of speaking to regarding such kind of things. But what I'm saying is the yeah, those people, it is not me per se in that I wanted them to become a united Africa and thing. This was the actual thrust. This was the main argument when they formed the organization. This is the main argument, right? Now the AU, right, is a rehash of the OAU, and it might have been watered down according to what you say in terms of their political ideology. But most recently, you see all what you're saying about established union and economic participation and thing. These are the bedrocks, the fundamentals, what you need to lay before you actually form into one nation. Because the people down in most recently Belarus and Russia decided that they're going to form a political union and make closer ties and whatnot. So it's so things has happened in international politics and things.
okay, but listen, just not to take me away from what I was saying, because clearly, and this is I'm not going to direct this to you, so you don't have to interrupt me at this point. I'm just going to say this because this needs to be said. Um, the African Union is there to defend the sovereignty and the territorial integrity and independence of each and every member state. So that in itself needs to be very clear. But what I really wanted to say was that if people understand that these are countries or states that actually just recently gained their independence and are trying to grow as other independent states around the world, so they have a long way to go. But within their growing process, they have designated what they represent, and obviously the problem comes in when people assume that that they're supposed to represent XYZ when they say we represent ABC. Now, the point is not that the African Union don't care about other people. It's just that different organizations are set up with their own rules, and that if you have the ADOS, it's set up with its own rules. If you have East African Union, it is set up with its own rules. East African Union does not represent West African Union. That's where they have the ECOWAS. So if I'm an East African, I will not be asking why the ECOWAS does not represent me or does not want to represent me, because within its guidelines, it's actually stated very clear that it's actually representing states, obviously by that citizens of West Africa. And if I'm not
Let
West
me get
African, then
another comment.
no, hold on, let me finish. And if I'm not a part of West African country, I cannot ask why ECOWAS does not represent me, because it states clearly. So African Union states clearly what it represents. People actually just want them to do other things that is not, when there are many organizations that attempt to actually do what they want. But when those organizations are set up, everybody starts arguing and doing other things. Organizations are very clear on who and what they represent. People need to start looking at organizations and supporting those organizations that actually are there to represent them, like the ADOS and all that stuff. So
All
instead
right,
of actually, figuring out why, you need representation from the African Union, if you want, become a citizen of one of those countries.
no problem, sis. But what I'm telling you is the African Union, right? Like those regional blocks, right? ECOWAS, the Eastern, the those kind of things. They're trying to bring in a regional currency for the Eastern African region. You're aware about that, right? Emiket?
Sorry, say it again.
I say, are you aware that the Eastern Economic Bloc in Africa are implementing a currency that will work in all of those countries?
Oh no, I'm not aware of it.
Right. So and even His Majesty Haile Selassie, he said that all of these regional blocks and organizations, they have a purpose to serve and whatnot, but we shouldn't get stuck in that stage of development. And he actually said that they're expedient for now, but is really the supranational unity is what the whole point is. You understand?
Yeah, that is good. I know, because I keep up mostly with East African Union because I'm, from the East Africa. So I do know that we do work with implementing, trade and also passports for East African. But I think there's also talk of actually having one, African passport. But these are just things that you will find in when it comes to just, politics and everything on the world stage. Like Rujao said, everything functions. The party starts at the national stage, and you always keep that in mind. And then but knowing those, my point is just for people to understand that you have to know how everything is structured. So that's why I say if it's an East African problem, is if it's a problem that engages a few countries in East Africa, it becomes an East African problem. It does not become an ECOWAS. But and that happens within family levels. You have your own family. There are problems that actually are your immediate family's problem. Then there are other problems within that family that is actually a wider family where it involves your cousins, your uncles, and then there are other problems that will go way beyond that at the bigger layer and goes to your neighborhood problems. So this is just how the world functions. And there's no way you're going to chip away at any of those layers saying that we need the uppermost layer and then all these other layers on the bottom we don't need. The world doesn't function like that. So even within on a continent, there is no one point where everything, because the continent, first of all, has a lot of groups of people. Forget the states. Within each state, you have actually diverse ethnic groups. My country has 42 ethnic groups, and all of them have their own issues that involve each and every ethnic group. I don't want to be involved with a ethnic problem that involves Kikuyu people when it does not concern my Luo people. So at that point, we go even further way down where Kikuyu people have to, if they have an issue that involves them, that is not a Kenyan problem. All the other 42 tribes do not need to involve themselves in that problem. So you will always find those layers and you will never chip away at them. So you will never chip away at the national level. You will never chip away at the regional layer where you have East Africa, West Africa, North Africa, South Africa, and then go straight to the whole continent. That will never happen. So all those layers play their part. But at the end of the day, the party really starts at the national level. That's all that's being said. And that people need to understand, even with the identity, there's always those layers, and all those layers have their functions and when they actually come in. And people need to know how to dance around those different layers if you actually, want to actually fix any kind of problem and be part of the world.
All right, but I thinking that basically you're trying to cement us into a kind of division on the spurious grounds. You understand? Because you know what different types of white people they have in England. You understand? It had Anglo-Saxons, it had Normans, it had Franks, it had Nordic people. You understand what I'm saying? So our tribal, our ethnic group and these kind of things is no insurmountable obstacle to the process of unity, and to say that like this person, now everybody need food, clothes and shelter. It ain't hard, you might have your little cultural thing, your little ways and whatnot, but I
But
don't think that we speaking in this. I find we speaking in like a pessimistic kind of dismal way instead of actually basically trying to encourage and help in the developmental process of the African Union.
okay, so check this out. Just to kind of simplify things, because a lot has been said, and I want to kind of summarize or simplify it a bit, but I don't want to oversimplify it either.
Right.
So the only reason why the African Union even came up in the earlier conversation was as things like this normally come up, because there's a lack of understanding of the multi-layered aspect of actions and functionality between populations of people, and so on and so forth. And so we here now, this is not for everybody. All I know is it definitely happens here in the United States. In the United States, people tend to talk about Africa as if it's a country on par with the United States. The United States is a country. Africa is not a country, but the way people talk about Africa is as if it's at the same level of country, but it's not. It's at a continent. So place like Kenya is on par with the United States. That's country to country. United States, Kenya, Nigeria, so on and so forth. But when we talk about Africa, we lump everything together and speak about it as if it's a country and that it does country things. And that's not the case. And so African Union is brought up, it was brought up earlier in the conversation because of that tendency that we all have to do that. And so drilling into the African Union, we see that the African Union, my claim earlier was that the African Union, there is no individual membership with the African Union, a person. It is based on a membership based on countries. So it's 55 countries that make up the African Union. And so if you're not a member, a citizen of one of those 55 countries, then you are not in the African Union. Now, the African Union, as we showed, as you brought up, recognizes a diaspora division, but only for the purposes of aiding the 55 countries that actually make up the union. So the African diaspora is not a member of the union. It's only recognized as a division to help the members of the union, which are the 55 countries. They call them 55 member states, but they're 55 countries
Right,
on
but
the continent. Well, wait. So hold up 1 second. And
yeah,
so this is confirmed because Haiti was not allowed to become a member of the African Union. The United States will not become a member of the African Union because it's not on the continent of Africa. It's not one of the African countries on the continent.
most
So
naturally,
we so because we are members of the United States and we're not a member, like Emiket is Kenyan. So Kenya is a member state of the African Union. So she is wrapped up as an individual under the umbrella of Kenya, which is a member of the African Union. Me, I'm my nationality is United States. I'm an American. I'm not a part of the African Union. Now, as a person of African descent, I would therefore be recognized and can help build the African Union, but I'm not a part of the African Union by their own constitution that I read. So I don't want to blur the lines and make it think that there's some benefit from that on the issues that we were talking about, which is why this was brought up in the first place. This really has no place in the conversation. And Rob Bowen mentioned this earlier that he don't know why. I guess Garfield brought it up, but because it really don't have any place when it comes to what we were talking about at the time that this did come up. So because, but I think it's a good thing to discuss like we're doing and to get some clarity on. So I hope everybody is clear on that.
these issues
That
is supposed to be what all of these sort of internet talking about, the Pan-Africanism and what going on with the AU and the different blocks and these kind of, what going on with the African diaspora. Because as I say, it have certain institutional bodies that represent in the African diaspora, such as
so
Caricom.
are you in Trinidad?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, so I'm not trying to get you to put your business out there. I was just wondering because I know you say you're from Trinidad, but I was wondering if you're from Trinidad, but you're an American citizen now or something like that. I was just trying to see
No man,
that.
I
Oh,
from the Caribbean. I in the Caribbean. Yeah.
okay, so all right, so you're Trinidadian, full the whole nine. All right, cool. So now check this out.
Full 100, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So here's the thing. The aspirations and goal of the African Union, we can go to the like what Emiket quoted from is right on their website.
We
About
understand the goals. We understand that the African Union primary goal is to develop Africa, right? And the 55 states. Now, even that
okay,
55 states thing, all of these things that we taking. You see, we having discussions and we working from certain base premises, right? So the premise that even Africa is supposed to be 55 states. States could there's rise and fall easily, you know. And look, the Soviet Union that dissolved into about 15 states in one day. You understand? And most recently in Africa, the most recent state is South Sudan, right? And the one what's still trying to fight for to be recognized as a state is somewhere in I believe it's Algeria or Morocco over there. They have a West Sudan trying to become a new state in Africa. You understand? So it come like and we must always realize and acknowledge that the borders what they have in Africa was delineated by the Berlin Conference. You understand? It's not of our own indigenous African psychology that we supposed to be all these set of countries and all of that too. You understand? So it have plenty things what need to iron out.
yeah, but I just want we got to keep things. You know, we had to paint an accurate, realistic image of where things are, so people don't have the wrong expectations. And this is why I said earlier that what I liked about the ADOS movement was that it started off as a political advocacy, educational and advocacy movement. And I said earlier that I wish it would have stayed on point with that, but it got dragged into a fighting slug match between Cobra, FBA, and all that noise. That's what I do not like about it, and I don't support none of that stuff that went on. But if I were to strip all that away, the educational advocacy portion of it, the movement, was on point because it was educating people on international politics, along with, of course, domestic politics in terms of where the action and fight takes place and how it's done and this, that, and the third, how everything operates. And so, like what I have on the screen here is in the United States, we have to point this out because the very word state is used differently in international documents and things and discussions versus here domestically in the United States. Because we call our 50 state the word states. We and then the United States is a country. We call the United States a country that consists of 50 states. But in the international stage, countries are states. You see, so Kenya is a state, but here we call Kenya a country.
Well,
But so when they say 55 member states,
I was
all right.
suggesting that you'd make a parallel to the EU instead of the United States, because there we would see they'd have a more clear correlation to the kind of jurisdictions and all of these kind of things. If you would use the EU as your example instead of United States.
No. Well, I'm not using neither. I just want to make it clear to everyone that when they hear the word states, they got to keep that in mind that internationally a state is equivalent to a country. But here in the United States, like I'm in the state of Georgia. Georgia is not a country. It's a state of the country of the United States that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? So there's a distinction that we have to make here in the United States of America, so we have to make sure we're aware of that. But that's why I asked you where were you, because like you not being in the states of in the United States, you may not be confronted with that confusion sometimes, to where you straight, you're good. But people here, when I talk to people,
what is going on with we down here, we actually get out. Or just like all the Americans, remember our media and all these things is super saturated with America. So the people down in Caribbean and thing have a pretty good idea of the realities of the African American. Then, in fact, plenty of them try to emulate and amalgamate themselves to that culture because it is more earlier over there. You understand?
Yeah. So yeah, I was just saying that so that people can be aware of that state equals country, because when you look at documents of the Vienna Convention and all these other things, you'll see the word head of state and all that kind of stuff, and we call the head of state the president. Like our head of state is called the president, but some people's head of state are called, the prime minister or what have you, whatever the case is. So people got to be up on the different terminologies and what they really represent. And so people have to lose that tendency of speaking of Africa as if it's a country. It is not. It never has been a country. Now, the aspirations of the AU and even the Pan-African movement is to somehow unify the people on the continent of Africa under one umbrella, a step-by-step process, whether it's divisions of north, south, east, west, and then forming, an intra-passport system, an inter-monetary system to create one currency and stuff like that, to eventually get up to the level of continent where the whole continent is unified and so on and so forth. But that's not the day we're living in right now. That's a beautiful aspiration and goal, but that's not where we're at right now. And so what I'm saying is that the level of activity and action that's taking place is always at the national level. Your nationality is where everything is activated. The only music you could dance to is that national music. There is no music playing on the continental level. It's quiet. There is no Africa anything in the areas of action and activities. The UN, like if the UN has no seat, nobody's sitting in a seat called Africa at the UN. Nobody's sitting in a seat of NATO called Africa. There is no such thing. It is always a representation from countries. Like Poland, like the whole Russia and Ukraine conflict. Ukraine is not a member state of NATO, which is why the United States, according to their charters and stuff, they can't. The United States is not going to send soldiers and direct military fighting with Russia, because Ukraine is not a member state of NATO, but Poland is. So if something happens in Poland, the United States said they will and are obligated to, according to the agreements, to defend Poland. You know what I'm saying? So they're a member state. So it's always on the level of country, not an individual. I can't be a member of NATO, but my country is. And because my country is, that's the proxy that I'm a member of NATO. Because the United States is a member of NATO. And that's it. That's the bottom line. And the sixth division, I don't want to get it twisted. That sixth division of the what's it called? Where was that? Right here. That sixth division that they labeled the African Diaspora is really equivalent to, I wrote on here on the side, it's really equivalent to an honorary recognition for the purposes of a reversal of the brain drain to get help
But
to build the 55 countries on the continent.
Okay,
not
so would you
not the
would you call
diaspora.
it a
It's not
tangible?
going to help build the diaspora.
All right,
No, that's the other wallet.
Hear what I'm saying, right? If would you consider it a tangible benefit as you as an African diaspora and let's say you get in visa-less?
Only if I plan to move to Africa. Only if
no,
I plan to become a citizen of an African country.
not a citizen,
Will I?
not a citizen. If you as a member of the African diaspora, you could get a visa-less passport to travel through Africa, and you could get work permits and whatnot without problems, and invest in certain things and business opportunities and things. These are the kind of tangibles what would be afforded to the African diaspora people, you understand, within engaging the African Union.
Yeah, but if my intent. So here's the thing, if I get a passport as an African diasporan person, I get a passport, go to Africa to aid in the development of an African. Let's say I go to Kenya. We talk about Kenya so much. I go to Kenya to help something, invest or whatever the case is. I don't need the African Union to do that right now. I can do that right now without the African Union. But let's say
All
I
right,
chose to
but
go
you would be
through.
in great
But
difficulties. You'd be in great difficult. So this is what I'm saying.
wait, no, I was going to say that. Wait, I'm just hold. Just let me finish because I was going to
Yeah,
say
go
that.
ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
I was going to say that I don't need the African Union to actually execute that. I can go, but like you just brought up, it will probably be easier if I go through some institution and organizational pathways by way of the African Union to get to cut to be more successful and achieve what I'm there to do. Now, if my intent is to invest and do all of that, but then take the reward I get and bring it back over here to the United States, how am I helping the African Union at that point? So that's why I preface my response by saying that I only see it being an issue, a benefit, if I plan to move over into an African country and become part and parcel of a nation. So if I plan to become a Kenyan citizen, then yes, it would be a great thing. But if I did that, I don't have to go through the African diaspora route. I'm already part of the member states because Kenya is a member state. You see how that works? So all I gotta do is become a Kenyan, and I'm plugged right in. Bingo.
Right,
That's
but
it.
it would be the well. I don't want to belabor the point. If you had other conversations you wanted to talk about or anything, but I was just chiming in. But
All right. Well, it's yeah, it is late. I guess it's the only conversation we're gonna have
all
because
right, well, I
that's
know because
I'm
look,
not gonna switch topics
all right,
at this
cool.
point.
Well, the African. So that's what I was saying. When I was asking you to relate or to try to conceptualize the African Union more in terms of how the European Union is formulated and operate, right?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
you basically you don't you're not agreeing with my assertion that the United States is basically an amalgamation of several different countries or states.
Nah,
States,
that's the wrong way
right?
to
So
that's the wrong way to look at that. Yeah.
all right. So well, you might say you're wrong because I find they have Puerto Rico and Hawaii and Alaska and desperate places and to put together as one
Those are
place, right?
territories. But go ahead. Those are
Okay.
territories.
All right. So I say better we draw the parallel to the EU, where those people is clearly different countries that in a political union, right? And the
Yes.
members, the citizens of each member state now are afforded privileges and rights that are universal to all European Union member people, right?
Yeah.
And those the kind of privileges and rights that they would be afforded would be free travel throughout the European Union, things like no like import export duties and things removed like that, and education opportunities and working opportunities and things like that. So is that kind of level there is what the Africa Union, at least at this point in time, since the sister in Emiket was trying to say that basically the AU not trying to amalgamate and they're trying to protect the sovereignty of each member state, right? Then
Yep.
basically they're trying to protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of each member state, but the kind of political union like what we see in the EU, it doesn't really infringe on anybody's um, local laws and certain things like that to a degree. You need to become in conformity with the EU law. That is why certain places like same Ukraine and Georgia and some of those other states in Eastern Europe, they've been asking and trying to petition to join the European Union, and they are not up to par with the regulations in terms of corruption and certain things like that, so they can't participate to be a member of the union. You know?
Well, I have it on the screen. So let's just since we did the AU, we
Yeah.
might as well do the EU.
How you mean?
So the European Union I got it pulled up, at least the wiki article. I got the website too, but the website has a lot of stuff on it because of the Ukraine situation. So I'm trying to go straight to this.
Definitely.
So it says the European Union, EU, is a political and economic union of 27 member states that are locally located primarily in Europe. The union has a total area of blank, so and so kilometers and square miles, an estimated total population of about 447 million.
Write down that's an important point. 447 million, right?
Million people, right? The
Yeah.
United States got 355 million people just in the United States as a country.
I think the
Okay,
continent
so
have start approaching a billion around now.
so let's read. An international single market has been established through a standardized system of laws that apply in all member states, which is 27 in number, in those matters and only those matters where the states have agreed to act as one. The EU policies aim to ensure free movement of people, goods, services, and capital within the internal market, enact legislation in justice and home affairs, and maintain common policies on trade, agriculture, fisheries, and regional development. Passport controls have been abolished for travel within the Schengen area. The Eurozone is now. I got to pause right here because if people remember, during the COVID-19 pandemic when it first started, and the United States banned people from other countries from entering the United States, one of the sweeping bans was in the Schengen area. So anybody that lived in the Schengen area was not allowed to come to the United States. That included countries like Denmark, Sweden. And if I click on here, we would see 26 countries. So 26 countries were not allowed to come to the United States. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure people understand.
What was the reason? What was that about? Why wouldn't they allow in?
Because of COVID, the spread of COVID, the coronavirus.
Right.
When it first kicked off, Trump signed that to ban. Okay, and then it says the Eurozone is a monetary union established in 1999, coming into full force in 2002, that is composed of the 19 EU member states that use euro currency. So just so people know, this is a sub portion of the EU because it's only dealing with the Eurozone people who deal with euro currencies, which is only 19 of the 27 member states.
All
All right, so they're basically outlining all that. Go ahead.
This is only 20 years. All these things, very important. The Europeans have only consolidated their continent into using a single currency 20 years ago, right? And imagine where they are in terms of national development and technology and civility and all of this sort of things.
No, it's beautiful. No, it's the aspiration. As I said, the aspiration is beautiful, even with the AU. But let me finish because right here is going to be key right there. The next sentence. It said the EU has often been described as sui generis, or generous, a political entity without precedent, or comparison, with the characteristics of either a federation or a confederation. All right, so so by them doing this and by them setting up more standardizations across the member states, which are 27 in number, they're able to have more cooperation and more development, like you're saying, is for economic development and so on and so forth. And those aspirations, security, and the aspirations of the AU is similar. Like that's the obviously the results that will happen if the AU were able to carry out and execute these same things.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and also to add, those just to agree with what Jed, you said, and what Wujao said, those for the European Union, that becomes easier because the countries within the European Union are able to interact with each other on an economical level and all that kind of stuff much easier than the African countries. And with the African countries, one of those the first baby steps that they are implementing is actually building the infrastructure first. And
Transport.
obviously and that's unfortunately that's one of the reasons why China came into the equation, building the infrastructure. Obviously, it was either that or the European part, and China was a willing participant without all the other baggages that come with it. But once you because you have to realize that within African countries that have a hard time trading with each other, it's actually easier to transport goods out of Africa to Europe than it is to actually transport within the continent and that, to among each other, and that comes from the poor infrastructure within the continent.
And
So
it also is also a echo of colonialism too. That they already
yeah,
had those trade routes and they already had those mechanisms to export all of we goods to refine elsewhere. You know?
Uh, yeah, so those it's easy actually to do it by sea. Other than because going through the land within each country, by the time you get to the country that you need to trade with, most of the goods are actually rendered useless at that point. So that's
We
why the
need a transcontinental rail system.
and that's what they're doing with the infrastructure that they're building from coming from smaller regions and then connecting them through the continent. But that's also a process. But that's one of the things that needs to happen, and then the economy with the currencies and things of that nature come in after that. Once you are able to trade with each other easily, then obviously then the aspect of what currency do we need so that we can trade with each other without having to exchange and all that comes in. But like the EU, that's a good example. The EU just have a head start. Obviously, they are the colonizers, but yeah, so it's a process.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to say this because in reading the rest of this, it's clear that the AU has a lot of work ahead of itself and a lot of obstacles that the EU did not have. But we could see from the EU that I have on the screen of the potential of what can transpire and what can take place. Because if you read this, you'll notice that there even though the EU is a union of 27 member states, it has within it sub things going on and sub treaties. So a lot of things came out of treaties and agreements between smaller
Smaller blocks, smaller blocks.
smaller entities doing X, Y, and Z. So I'm gonna
Read it
skip
off
down.
fast if it easily
All
readable.
right, all right, all right. Let me read it real quick. It says the Union and the EU citizenship were established by the Maastricht Treaty, came into force in 1993. The EU traces its origins to the European Coal and Steel Community and the European Economic Community, established respectively by the 1951 Treaty of Paris and 1957 Treaty of Rome. So that's respectively for each one of those. So 51 and 57.
Mm-hmm.
The original member states of what came to be known as the European communities were the Inner Six: Belgium, France, Italy, Luxembourg,
Yeah.
the Netherlands, and West Germany. The communities and their successors have grown in size by the accession of 21 new member states and in power by the addition of policy areas to their remit. The latest major amendment to the constitutional basis of the EU, the Treaty of Lisbon, came into force in 2009. In 2020, the United Kingdom became the only member state to leave the EU. Before this, 4 territories of current member states had left the EU or its forerunners. There are several other countries that are negotiating to join the European Union. So you see a lot of activity going on, and it stretches back to the 1950s. From what I saw, and then the citizenship things start ironing itself out by 1993, and so on and so forth. And then you even got people even leaving. See, the AU didn't have enough time under his belt for anybody to even leave yet, if they so chose. So So there's a lot of work to be done. Yeah. But what I don't, so, and that's great.
The
But
AU
what,
is an older organization. No, sorry. The
hmm?
OAU. The OAU is an older organization than the EU. You think?
But the EU is having more rate of progress and
Definitely because
everything
they develop
because
countries because they retarded our development so that they could
there you
speed up
go.
their development.
Okay, so there you go. You're absolutely correct, and that's what Emiket said as well. So what I don't want people to misconstrue is the purpose of the AU, because we tend here, and I'm not speaking, like I said,
Coach
it's not
Mass.
everybody in the diaspora,
Mm-hmm.
but in these kind of conversations and stuff, what I noticed that African Americans do, we tend to latch on to stuff like that, the AU, with the misunderstanding or the wrong expectations of its purpose and everything. And so if we're not going to pack and move to an African country, then, which is something that may be considered and people want to do in mass or individual whatever, but the AU is not for African Americans in the United States, because the AU doesn't have any jurisdiction or any powers or whatever to execute anything on, even on behalf of African Americans here in the United States.
No,
So
well,
so
that part there on the behalf of that could be discussed, because in terms of like things in the international law and thing, international court, you know, countries
no,
and
but
nations is bring charges against other countries and nations.
no, that's, yeah, that's true, but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, like, for example, the AU has no jurisdiction or say so on the affairs that happen here in the United States in our judicial system, or what have you, legislative processes and things. It just doesn't. The United
No.
States has a 3 branch government: the judicial, legislative, and the executive, and they have their functions that are they're thoroughly outlined in the Constitution and blah blah blah. And the AU is not and has no say so. But that should be obvious. But what I'm saying is that people talk about the AU and discuss it and everything like as if it does. So back to the original conversation part about reparations, the AU has no jurisdiction or validity or merit in that discussion. So that's
I
why
would say
Rob
no.
Bourne,
I
I
would
agree
say
with
no. I
him.
would say no. I would say
It
no.
shouldn't
I
even have
would
been
say
brought
no.
up. Yeah,
Because
it
here
shouldn't have
why?
been brought up in that discussion.
No, no, no. The African Union does have a part in the reparation issue, right? Now,
Are you
in
going to
terms
explain
of
how?
okay, I would explain because the countries on Africa would it have a book, right, that documenting the human resource what was lost during the process of the transatlantic slavery in terms of population, right, and the demographics of the continent. So they inside of this book, it named "The Healing of the Nations: A Case for Reparations," is by I forget the author name. He's a man from Barbados, right? A lawyer from Barbados. He in this book, the man, like, is over 100 million people. Is like the loss what the continent took now. You understand? So those countries in Africa themselves need reparations from the European governments that basically underdeveloped them. You understand? So this reparations thing is not it also it's on both sides of the Atlantic. Africa need reparations for the colonial past and the transatlantic slave trade and whatnot.
Okay, but wait,
And
okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish.
no, well, you good. I
No,
was
I was
just
just gonna
drawing that
say,
point.
yeah, but all right. Well, I don't want to blur it because the the idea of reparations, yes,
Mm-hmm.
African citizens of the African countries deserve restorative justice as well from colonialism and
Yeah,
everything. In fact, there are some African countries to this very day are still paying European countries.
yeah, the French
Um,
one, the French
the French, yeah,
francophones. Mm-hmm.
exactly. The francophone countries, they are still paying tribute to European countries to this very day. So the umbrella of reparations, yes, there's a lot that needs to be done in regards, but the reparations that is the talk of the town
Mm-hmm.
during this election cycle that passed and stuff is not that. It is a very specific complaint
I want.
that's being raised for the African Americans in America,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
I
so
understand.
the and so in that complaint the AU has no standing whatsoever.
But I want to find out a piece of chronology about America. I hoping you could. You know, no hard trivia or nothing, right? I want to know like when slavery started in America, right? And then when America get independence, like what was the duration of time in between when it had slavery active in America?
1776. Okay, well the dates that are being used is
Mm-hmm.
1619
Right.
to 1776 would be prior to the United States.
Independence.
1776
And then
would
and
be
then when did the Americans abolish slavery?
well they're using the date 1865. They're using the date 1865.
So from 1776 to 1865, slavery was under the auspices of the United States government.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I'm saying that from you say that the end of American independence is 1776. You said,
Yes.
all right. So I'm saying the time from 1776 up until 1865 when it had
Yeah.
emancipation, that would be the period what United States government is responsible for. But the period prior to that, right, prior
Hmm.
to 76,
Yeah.
from 1619 to 1776, the Black Americans would need to seek reparations from the European governments that were responsible for that portion of slavery. You understand?
No. No, not at all. Because what they've done is that prior to 1776, the United States was colonies, and so they're including the colonial slavery as well. So that's what people got to understand, and the language is there in the HR 40 bill as well. They're talking about um, the colonies that later became the United States and the official formation of the United States. They're including both. So
All right,
that's
but
why
who was
that's why they give the
culpable?
date.
Which nation state was culpable for the slavery taking place in those colonies before the formation of United States? This is
Okay,
what I'm
but you
saying.
have to you have to understand what's being described as the damage. So
Right, but the
remember
capital. Right, right.
reparations or restorative. You got restorative and reparative justice. Those
Mm-hmm,
are two elements of reparations. And
mm-hmm,
so the actual act of slavery, meaning the kidnapping and the inhumane treatment and this, that, and the third, is that's those set of acts. But what's included in there and what people need to definitely understand is the results of those acts in terms of um, the economic and everything that came along with it as a result of that. And so even though 1619 the United States of America was not formed, the United States of America reaped the direct benefit of what took place from 1619, and
I
the United
think
States of America and the United States of American government inherited that, and the United States of America, is what it is because of my ancestors here built this country. So the wealth of the United States, the reason why the United States is a superpower to this very day, and the wealth of the United States is on the backs and sweat and blood and tears of my family and my lineage here in this country.
I understand, but what I'm trying to draw out is that the the plantation economy, right? The whole purpose of plantation economy and colonization thing is that you extract the wealth out of the colony and you return it to the metropolis, right? So when England is thing, they used to extract the wealth out of Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, etc., and send it back to the motherland of England. You understand? So basically, the profits, the a lot of the majority, I could probably say the majority of the profits of the slave production was expatriated back to England, right?
But hold up, but let me get you to understand. So, cause I know what you're saying, and that's a great point. But here's the thing, you have to understand, like in contracts, right? There's like, I don't know if you ever like had a contract, like if you had a debt or mortgage or stuff like that, right? Well, they had what's called assignees. And so like if you're buying a house and I'm financing your purchase of the house, and then I'm the financer of that, you have a debt to me. But then I can sell the security deed or whatever, or the mortgage deed or security deed or whatever, to someone else, and they'll inherit that. And whatever happens, they'll inherit it. So the 13 colonies were inherited and absorbed into the United States. So even if the labor, the sugar cane, and this, that, and the third, and whatever was going on, the cotton and whatever was going on in the colonial days, even if England benefited from that, what became the United States of America directly benefited from that and inherited that. So the responsible body is the United States of American government. So
I
just
hear
like
what you're saying, but
just like if I wanted to collect, just like if I wanted to collect on a debt or a situation, you owe the debt. Like if you buy a car,
yeah,
and I finance it, you buy a car, you're paying the car note. But then you go sell the car you give the car to somebody else.
somebody else had to keep paying the car note. I understand the
Somebody got
analogy. I understand
okay.
the
I
analogy.
just want you. I just want to understand that the assessors or assignees and stuff like that, how that works. I'm saying that's not the exact same thing, but the principle is the same. The principle is there. The United States government is the responsible party, and it's the person, it's the entity that the complaint is being leveraged against. The United States government.
Well, I understand that, and I wouldn't argue that at all. But so you think? Do you agree that those European nations have any form of culpability, or you relinquish their culpability from paying some reparations to Black Americans?
No, I like me. The evidence. I mean, the history shows that the European nations, specifically I believe Portugal, Spain, and England, the UK, are
The Dutch.
are and the Dutch. Yep, are also part of it. But our fight can't stretch that far.
Understand?
Our first
So you
fight,
gotta focus locally first and
there
try
you
to get
go. There
America
you
to
there.
handle all these things.
Exactly. There you
And
go.
it might set a precedent to maybe even realize those other reparations in the future. Also,
There you go. We're having such a hard time because here's the thing. Even close to at home in America, the government. Let's just imagine and I'm just painting a hypothetical. Let's say the United States government, in the kindness of its heart, really did want to make African Americans whole again. Okay. Even if
I
they
don't.
wanted to, like forget all the ideas that we think about the government being our enemy, racism and everything like that. Let's just say the government really did want to make African Americans whole again from the whole slavery activities, right? Even in that scenario, the government will have a difficult time in executing that, though. And the reason why is because the way that the society, the country is now, and its citizenship and everything, citizenry, it's going to be hard to tell who's who, like who deserves this repair.
Yes.
And so that's what the commission and study is for. The bill is for to create a body of people. And let me say this as a side note. This is a FYI. Congress passed bill. Congress, a lot of things that Congress does is based on budget. It's the agreement and allotment of money. It's the movement of money. So this bill is really petitioning Congress to finance a study to do all of this stuff, and they're asking for 12 million to finance this study, and this study is supposed to take its time to identify and come up with recommendations on how to execute a restorative and reparative program for those who are affected, which are African Americans. And that's all the bill is. The bill is to
So
request from Congress
is it on
to
that
pay for
principle?
and to establish a commission.
Is it on the principle that the request is being made to the government? Because I think we could, or the
Yeah.
Black American collective could have raised 12 million to investigate the reparations case. You know, I mean, professionally also.
Yeah, well, $12 million is like, for example, Rihanna. They say Rihanna's worth $1 billion, according to what I saw recently, right? So Rihanna can pay for that, but that's not how
I
it.
know,
That's
but
not how it.
that's what I say.
See,
So I'm wondering if it's a matter of principle that we're trying to force the American government to pay for the research for the reparations,
no. It's not so
as
much
opposed to private
from.
funding.
Yeah, well, the payment of it is what Congress has to allot, but it's not the amount. Like from our view, somebody could pay for that. Shaquille O'Neal, Oprah could just write that. Oprah could just swipe her Visa card and be like, look, oh, there you go, or whatever. And I'm just saying, but so it's not the money. It's the government has to do it because it's a part of legislation of the government, because the government is going to be the responsible party to offer the solution. And so the government is setting aside money, because remember, the members of the commission, as outlined in HR 40, they're going to hire people to carry all these things out anyway. So the money, so it's not like those members are going to do all the work. Like, they're not going to do that work. They're the responsible people that are gonna carry the task out, and they budgeted 12 million to carry that stuff out. So it's not a matter of private people doing it, because it tells you people based on their education and if you read HR 40, it's talking about the educational level, expert specialties and things like that, who are going to be members of the commission to actually carry these things out. But they're going to need outside sources. They're going to have to collect data and everything like that. So it's not going to be all those named individuals, whoever they may be. So the budget is just as a coffer chest to be, for them to be able to get things done. But it's important for them to do it because, one, the government has access to documents that a private group may not even have or have a difficulty in obtaining. The government has carte blanche access to everything. You understand? So any slave list, any this, that, and the third, Library of Congress. Library of Congress is like a open, like they have access to everything with no issues. Whereas a private entity would have to go through a whole bunch of things, get permission, this, that, and the third, to get this, that, and the third. So the government would they can shorten that. They wouldn't have that issue. And then on top of that, whatever recommendations they have is coming from themselves. So that they don't have to worry about other interests in it. It's like putting together a study where you gotta list your conflict of interest and all this other kind of stuff. The government is not gonna have any because they're doing it themselves. And so what I suggested was that the president impanel a commission, because it's in the president's right and ability to do so. And that's what I saw missing from the arguments. I didn't see no ADOS members from Yvette and Antonio on down. Even the in Cobra, I didn't see FBA folks. I didn't see Tariq Nasheed. I didn't see none of them mention the other option. Even Al Sharpton, when Al Sharpton had those candidates to his thing, nobody asked those questions. And I did a video on it. I'm like, why didn't they ask that? Why didn't they ask the presidential candidate that if you become president, why don't you use your executive decision capabilities and put together a commission? Totally bypass Congress. You ain't got to wait for the House and the Senate to agree. You can do it. Like, why didn't anybody bring that up? Like little old me, like I was shocked. I'm like, man, I must be in La La Land. I'm like, man, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, but man, listen, it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm definitely about to end this, man. So I appreciate you coming on here, and I appreciate all your input and questions the whole night, you know. And even James came on earlier and asked questions. Tiffany rolled out. She had to go. Mika probably sleep. Mika be coming on here and she probably sleep.
She uses us as a lullaby. I don't know.
Hey, thanks for the spirited discussion, man. And I sometimes I just come across a little spirited and thing, but everything all good, right? So bless up, give thanks, Wujahu, give thanks, Empress, Emiket, you know, give thanks.
All right, give thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. I'm always open for spirited discussions, man. That's my thing. So it's all good. All good.
Yeah, man.
Without all the interruptions, just to get all the inputs.
I didn't hear that last thing you say.
Oh, I was saying that this is definitely one of those better discussions I've had because, you know, and that's because of you and the panelists, because usually it gets, you know, you get exasperated when conversations go left and you can't make any movement with the conversation. But definitely, I appreciate how you handled the conversation and Wujao.
No, well, you see, I realized something come up the other day, and I realized Wujahu use a computer program. You're related to computers, then?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. Well, I just dabble into JavaScript and certain computer science too. So when you involve yourself with the syntax and thing, is really allow you to be logical and certain things like that. You know what I mean? It's a serious thing.
Absolutely. And I tell people that they need to get into this so they can start, you know, thinking logically. Like a lot of things is based on logic.
Levels in your brain, unlocking some levels in your brain.
Exactly.
All right, that's interesting. Everybody up in here is using JavaScript. That might speak a lot about some.
Yeah. Emikaz is with JavaScript and what else?
JavaScript, you know, obviously using the React and all that kind of stuff. I've done a little bit of Python, but definitely my tool of trade is just JavaScript.
All right. Well, I'm a novice. I learning and I also learning Arduino. I learning the Arduino microprocessors and them kind of thing.
Hey, keep it up, man, because that was my forte. I went to college for computer science, University of Maryland. But last thing I want to say though, if anybody's interested on my take on reparations, let me make this big on the screen because I I no longer discuss these things because the noise got too overwhelming for me, and I just backed out of the discussions. But if anybody's interested on my stance with the whole reparations, the ADOS conversations, and all that kind of stuff, go to my YouTube channel, not this one, Seshu, but go to Wujao's YouTube channel, and Emiket put the link in the chat, and just check out those videos. They're 3 years old, between 3 and 2 years old. So I was going hard for one whole solid year, but from 3 years ago, and I went hard on everything in terms of explaining things, trying to make things clear, trying to be the voice of reasoning. As you see, my first video was what is reparation, and then everything else was kind of an open discussion. Then I have a video called what is HR 40. So I walked through the whole document line by line, and then there's a video that got 46,000 views of Dr. Darity speaking about reparations, half hour long. Check that out. And then I had I did a reaction video to Jason's Black video about HR 40. And so you see those things got a lot of views relative to me, because I'm like, my channel is I ain't got hardly no subscribers on my channel. So that had a lot, that picked up a lot of attention. But anyway, go check all that stuff out. I don't speak about this stuff anymore. The election cycle is of importance. When it was hot, it's over, and but I'm still in support of reparations, and I know the deal, and I just wish that these groups, being in Cobra, ADOS, FBA, and these independent folks that got a lot of mouth, I hope they get their act together, because we're missing the opportunity by all this unnecessary bickering and childish stuff that I saw and see to this day, when we got this important thing to deal with. Reparations is already something that people don't believe is ever going to happen. Like a lot of people are pessimistic about it in the first place. So it's like, God dang, why are we arguing when we got a tough hill to climb on that? You know what I mean? Because the government would have to spend a whole lot of money to make African Americans whole again. A whole lot of money that they would have to unfold over years. It would have to be a program that unfolds itself over years. Nobody getting a big check. It would have to be policies, programs, and institutions set up and whatnot over years that would eventually make African Americans whole. So it might not even be in my lifetime where African Americans are made whole. You see, and people got to look at that reality. So anyway, that's all I got to say on that topic. And so now, next show we're gonna get back into Kemet and stuff. Now y'all know me. I can tie this entire conversation into Kemet. And I dare somebody to dare me to do it, because I will go live tomorrow and I will tie everything we said tonight. I will tie the AU, the EU, AU, and everything into Kemet, some form of fashion. Trust me on that. I will be able to do that. But all right. So I just want everybody to see that. And one other thing, Emiket is sharing this. I don't know if you want to speak on that real quick.
Oh yeah, actually, that was the whole reason I came came on the panel in the first place. I guess this was from your earlier conversation with Pan-African Designs. When you're talking about the images, on the walls and everything like that. But I just wanted to put this as as a resource that people can use. This is one of the books when you want to understand about ancient Egyptian art, because people tend to assume that you just take it as you would modern art that we see. So this is a good book. That is also definitely a good book to learn about the proportions and the canons that they use. And this one I would definitely recommend. If you can get all the books, get the third book that you see on the right. Principles of Egyptian art, because it's a thick book, but it really explains everything that that people need to know about when they look at ancient Egyptian art. What are they looking at? Because some people just want to look at it and take it as it is. This is what it's telling me, as opposed to understanding the canons that the ancient Egyptians or the Remet used. But yeah, that was the whole reason I actually came in, just to add that to one of those things that the listening audience can actually get as a resource, and it will help them to to understand all that stuff. Because I could see that Pan-African Designs was having a little bit of trouble understanding what what the pictures actually say, and why you should not take them literally as they are. But those are good resources.
All right.
All right, that is excellent. And
Since all you're sharing book, I'll just share this book with all you. I don't know if you're seeing this.
it's The Healing of the Nation, a case for reparations in an era of recession and recolonization. Yep.
Right, and this is the author here.
David A. Commission. All right, cool. If you
No,
type
yeah,
that in the chat as well.
I'll type it in for you. Yeah, man.
Yeah, type it in the chat. All right, and I appreciate the whole discussion. I appreciate the one from earlier. Because I already know how when you have several people on the panel that have things to say, it can kind of go all over the place and stuff. That's why I like to always do like these after shows or something to kind of reiterate some things and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely cut this. So I'm gonna say appreciate everybody tuning in. It's like Sunday night late on the East Coast. That is, I know it's like only 12 on the West Coast, but I'm going to end the show. So maybe tomorrow we'll do another Kim and Chill, or we may go into something. Now, what I did like at the end of the conversation earlier today on Garfield's channel was we were talking about the Book of the Dead being utilized with the in the 16th century or whatever with the Ethiopians and the Coptic Church and all that kind of stuff. So I think that deserves another round of discussion. So maybe in the future I might probably return to that topic. So I think because that was a pretty decent topic to get into. But all right, so I'm gonna say Shalom Ho to everybody, and peace. I am definitely out. Hotep.
Yeah, man.